That hand passed on the sword. Humans and demons allied. But the ground was littered with the corpses of men and monsters alike. Even the allied forces had been defeated. On the desolate wasteland, the girl glanced at Milo. Now all that remained. Valentine looked around and spoke. We're the hero and the demon king. It's just the two of us now. Milo gritted his teeth. A deep, dark hole suddenly appeared before them. Involuntarily, they both saw something within it. From inside the black hole, a demonic hand reached out. Valentina watched it, her brow furrowing slightly. 10 years ago, an extraterrestrial creature, Milo's eyes burned with hatred, suddenly appeared on Earth. Humans and demons called these things outsiders. In the endless void, a black hole tore open. A monster, its entire body cloaked in a hood, with 6 arms. An alien. Milo and Valentine drew their swords. Milo glanced to his side. Valentina was ready for battle. She unleashed a slash, attacking the alien with her ultimate technique. A thunderous explosion echoed, sending dirt and sand flying everywhere. Valentine conferred with Milo. A direct hit. Should we go for it? The monster was completely unfazed. It emerged, entirely unharmed, and flashed a grotesque smile. The alien shot toward Valentina, intent on attacking. Her face was a mask of shock as she looked at him. But then, Milo's voice rang out from the other side, drawing its attention. Your opponent is over here. Milo had gathered his power. He reached his hand toward the creature and uttered, fragment. He gave a slight smile and continued, ultimate step magic, level 100. He struck it with his full power. The light engulfed the creature. It vanished in an instant, leaving only a few tattered scraps of cloth in front of him. Valentina spoke. We're safe. It looks like we finally did it. Milo replied. It feels like throwing water on a burning stone. However, her eyes were lost in thought as she stared into the space before them. Another circle, just like before, appeared in the sky. Then 2 more. And then hundreds more appeared. From within one of these black circles, a tentacle emerged. Hideous monsters of all kinds appeared before Valentina and Milo. Everything turned to despair. That was my feeling. Valentina glanced over. Even if we combine our strength, we'd be lucky to defeat even one of them. Milo grimaced, his eyes shut tight as he sighed. We're at a dead end. It's over. Valentina looked at him with sad eyes. She bit her lip, unable to speak. Milo suddenly became optimistic in the face of their dire situation. At least let me go out with a bang. Valentina's eyes widened. She had thought of a way to deal with them. She held out her hand and began to cast a spell. There's still a way. Milo was stunned as a golden light enveloped him. He asked, confused, what is this? Valentine answered him, perhaps it's time to use my trump card. Space-time. The ability to send a soul to a place that is not here. Valentina's eyes were filled with determination. Not now. Milo muttered, confused, time travel? She stood proudly before the horde of monsters. This power was given to me by the god of rebirth when I died and was reincarnated into this world. Well, you probably don't even know what Earth is. She continued to recall and explain. Anyway, this is a skill. Rebirth. Valentina glanced at him. No, to be precise, if I use it on you, it could be called backup rebirth. Milo's face was a mixture of surprise and confusion. I can feel a power I've never touched before. It's not of this world. The monsters advanced, growling. Milo thought back to the past. Nor is it something controlled by the outsiders. 3 years ago, strange creatures. Outsiders from beyond the cosmos. A few of them escaped onto this planet and opened an interdimensional rift. Valentine's eyes were thoughtful as she recalled. They were mass-produced at that time. I had planned to send you back long before this. She spoke loudly. If we can eliminate the outsiders who opened the interdimensional rift, then this tragedy can be stopped. Milo clenched his fists. The power of rebirth. I understand that this power is extraordinary. I understand the logic you're speaking of. He asked, helpless and confused. But why not use it on yourself? Why does it have to be me? Valentine frowned. That's because. She closed her eyes gently and took a deep breath. I don't want to be the one to end things here for you. Milo was stunned by Valentina's words. Now that I think about it. At the castle, Milo looked at her, speaking decisively in his capacity as the demon king of the demon tribe. Her eyes showed surprise as she heard Milo's reply. And you, the hero Valentina. Milo's eyes were filled with determination. He smiled faintly. We won't fight with force. Instead, we'll negotiate. Milo sat on the throne, engaging in a heated debate with her. After a while, they successfully concluded their negotiations. The two shook hands to the cheers of their people. They finally held a feast together. The atmosphere became joyous. As the party ended and they were on their way back, it seemed they both had unspoken feelings hidden in their hearts. Milo walked behind her, the image of her radiant smile flashing in his mind. He thought to himself, I think it was love at first sight. The dark, gloomy sky rumbled with thunder. Valentine continued. To complete the rebirth ritual, the sacrifice of the skill's owner is essential. She looked back at Milo. And having a suitable partner here. She smiled. Shall I make a dramatic hero's exit? Milo slammed his hand against the barrier in front of him, crying out helplessly, Wait, Valentine. She didn't answer, walking on in silence. Because this is the last time, I'll tell you this. She thought back to their struggles. The reason I didn't target you with my attacks. Valentine recalled the first time they met. The truth is, she smiled, radiant and content. It was love at first sight. Milo's face contorted in pain, his eyes filled with sorrow. He screamed, Valentine. Valentine charged toward the monsters alone. Behind her, Milo cried out ceaselessly, Don't go. Valentine. His screams echoed. Stop. Helpless, he witnessed Valentine's end with his own eyes. Blood splattered everywhere. Milo's eyes stung with tears. His desperate scream seemed to tear through space itself. His eyes were wide with despair. The royal slave arena. A voice called out, Ayatsu. The call echoed, Ayatsu. Someone was swinging a sword. The voice continued to call, Ayatsu. Behind iron bars, a young man was practicing with a sword. Milo trained exhaustedly. A voice called from the other side. The jailer entered, holding a plate of rice mixed with meat and bones. Time to eat. Milo replied, Thanks. The man sneered. Then he spat a wad of saliva onto the boy's food. Here's my special seasoning. Eat up. He took the bowl, his eyes filled with rage. The man grinned hideously. How pitiful. If your mother hadn't poisoned your father. He pointed at Milo. You'd be eating roasted chicken right now. Milo turned his back, his voice low. That's a baseless slander. The man's face showed confusion. Milo explained loudly, My mother is innocent. Jealous of the love my father had for her. It must have been his legal wife or another woman. One of those filthy vixens. His words enraged the man. He rushed forward and punched Milo in the face. The plate of rice fell to the ground, scattering everywhere. Milo tumbled to the floor. The man clenched his fist, frowning. A lowly slave like you dares to call noblewomen vixens? He cracked his knuckles. He raised his foot, ready to kick. That's contempt for the nobility. Caught you red-handed. He kicked the boy repeatedly while continuing his insults. I'm being merciful, so I'll just leave you half dead. Milo endured the pain, thinking about this world. This world is divided between the haves and the have-nots. Milo thought back to the haunting memory. My mother, who came from a common background, was framed. She truly had no real chance to defend herself. Even at her death, there was no evidence whatsoever. She was executed for the crime of killing a nobleman. The jailer grabbed his head and yanked it back. The jailer smiled sinisterly, mocking him. Do you understand your position now? He threw the boy down as if crushing an ant. He wiped his hands, his face full of contempt. I'll stop here. After all, tomorrow is your big match. Milo's eyes burned with hatred as he listened to the man's words. A moron like you was chosen to open the battle between true nobles. Consider it an honor. Milo slowly sat up, his eyes showing no fear. Even if I carry my father's warrior blood. The man laughed. Warrior blood, you say? You're hilarious. The man leaned down to look at him, still grinning. A weakling with no swordsmanship training. You think you can win with that sword? Milo frowned, retorting without holding back. A sword is a sword. If it finds a gap in the armor, it can kill the enemy. The man treated his words like a joke. Unbelievable. The cell door closed, leaving only the man's voice behind. All right, enjoy your little dream. Milo muttered a curse as he reached for the sword. Damn it. He cried out in pain. He looked at his hand, at the blisters on it. There's no way I can win. He frowned. But it's precisely because it's impossible. He gripped the sword tightly in his hand. I was promised freedom from slavery if I win. He continued to practice, thinking to himself, it doesn't matter if my hands get blistered or bleed. His eyes were filled with determination as he suppressed the pain. Right now, I just need to get used to using a sword. The next morning, in the arena, Milo faced a fat knight. The knight sneered, I sympathize with you. The man mocked Milo. Even if you are a bastard, to see the blood of a noble family fall this far. If you didn't carry commoner blood. The man stared at Milo. You wouldn't have ended up a slave. Gaston continued to mock Milo. All right, thanks for that. I'll build my reputation by defeating a member of the Happer family in my very first match. Milo clenched his fists, his face showing his displeasure. How shameless. He asked him, what's so admirable about such an unfair victory? Gaston retorted, unfair? That's how the world works. It's only natural that your birth determines everything. Below, the nobles clapped excitedly. He sneered as he looked at Milo and spoke again. I am very proud that both my parents are pure-blooded nobles. Milo gritted his teeth, his eyes blazing with anger. Gaston called out, Father! He looked toward his father in the stands. Witness your son's glorious moment. Gaston's father looked down, a smug expression on his face. The referee asked him politely, shall we begin, young master? Gaston replied, go ahead. The referee announced the rules. Only magic is forbidden. This is a pure swordsmanship match. Milo was calm. I can't use magic anyway. Gaston laughed mockingly. What a cripple. He put his arm around Milo's shoulder and asked, if I were to roast you from a distance with fire magic, it wouldn't even count as a first match, would it? He's so heavily armored, and he still has the nerve to say that? The referee gave the signal. All right, both sides ready. The announcement rang out. Begin. Gaston sneered. The crowd watched the match between them with excitement. Milo watched him warily. Gaston was the first to charge and attack. He spoke with a sneer, die. He swung his sword at him relentlessly. Milo raised his sword to block. Gaston's tone was provocative. What's wrong? Come on. Come at me, you piece of trash. Wounds trickled blood down Milo's face, but he continued to resist, thinking, he's too strong. Milo felt that this guy's attitude wasn't just bravado. This is the difference between someone with training and someone without. He gritted his teeth, forced to swallow that bitter truth. Then he suddenly signaled to Gaston. Wait. Please, wait a moment. He knelt down and began to speak. I understand now. It was too reckless. I can't possibly win against you. Milo raised his hands in a gesture of surrender. I give up. I surrender. Gaston stood before him, sneering. Scared stiff, are we? How pathetic. He burst into a fit of laughter, then stuck out his tongue, mocking Milo. I don't accept surrenders. This is a death match that only ends when one of us is dead. Milo, helpless, furrowed his brow and let out a cry. He put all his strength into his legs. He ran, shouting. Gaston watched his actions, confused. Then he roared in anger. Are you running away? In my first match. He charged, chasing after him while yelling. Wait, you bastard. Stop struggling. He shouted loudly. You're destined to die by my hand. Milo dug his heels in to stop, then turned to face Gaston, his sword still in hand. He was surprised by Milo's move. Milo thought to himself, just as I thought. Seeing me run away in fear, he's become overconfident in his victory. He's not prepared for a counterattack. His sword strikes are also sloppy. This isn't even swordsmanship, so I can dodge them. And my target is the only exposed part of his fully armored body, his face. Gaston realized Milo's intention. He sneered and said, low-level physical barrier magic. Milo's sword shattered as it hit a shield that materialized in front of Gaston. He cried out in shock, huh? A defensive spell? He turned to the referee, confused. Isn't magic forbidden? The deceitful referee replied, magic? Dust got in my eye, so I couldn't say for sure. Milo asked again in disbelief. Frustrated, he commented, what trash? All of you. The opponent's sword tip swung up. Milo immediately glanced over. But Gaston had already raised his sword. He spoke, you dare trick me? Milo watched his opponent in astonishment. Gaston growled menacingly. I will make sure to punish you. He raised his sword high, preparing to strike. Along with your mother. Milo's eyes widened. Gaston roared with delight. To hell. Milo was stabbed. He was shocked. The announcement rang out, and the crowd cheered excitedly. Time's up, the referee declared. The winner is Lord Gaston of the Acid family. Tears welled in Milo's eyes as he lay in a pool of his own blood, frustrated. The bloodstain spread, and then Milo's eyes slowly closed as he lost consciousness. But then, his eyes flared red. He felt the demon king within him awaken. Gaston turned to his father. "Father, did you see my glorious victory?" He continued, confused. "Why do you look so panicked?" The old man was trembling. A voice came from behind Gaston. He asked in disbelief, "How are you standing?" Gaston continued, confused, "I'm sure I pierced your heart." His face contorted, sweat pouring down in fear. Milo lunged forward like a flash. Gaston saw him hovering in the air, his face horrified. He stammered, "Physical. Barrier magic." He used his shield, muttering, "You idiot." Gaston smiled smugly. "Not even a sword can penetrate this barrier. You dare try with your bare body." Milo's foot slammed straight into him. His face twisted and contorted. Milo kicked him, sending him flying far away. Gaston's father, watching from above, grimaced. But they were horrified, their eyes fixed on Gaston, who lay flattened and motionless on the ground. He thought to himself, waking up just to deal with this trash. He stepped on the man's chest. "People like you nobles only say what you want to say." Milo looked at him. "My name is Iris, and you have shown disrespect to the Demon King." His eyes held extreme hatred. Gaston screamed, "What the hell is happening here?" The old man, indignant, spoke in a harsh tone. "I sent my son to fight because I was told he would never lose this match." He looked at the person in front of him, questioning, "Manager." The arena manager clapped his hands and looked at the old man. He replied, "Even so, a 3-day match is officially considered a fierce competition. Reversing it is even harder." Gaston's father slammed his hand on the table and continued, "Don't mess with me. Do you know how much I paid you? I won't be satisfied until you pay me back." The manager calmly replied. Everything was explained clearly before the match. He pointed to the black and white contract on the table to make his point. "And you signed the agreement after understanding it all." Gaston gritted his teeth in frustration. The arena manager grinned as he threatened the old man in return. "If you continue to complain, I won't hesitate to file a complaint with the royal family." Gaston's face turned red with anger, but he couldn't say anything more. The arena manager raised his hands. "But rest assured, our revenue depends mainly on serving nobles like you." The manager looked through a spyglass. "I will risk the reputation of this arena to show that spoiled brat the depths of hell." He turned to a subordinate and ordered, "You, go and tell him." The man nodded. "Yes, sir." He looked at the list and began to present. About the slave boy's opponent for tomorrow. A man with a muscular build. None other than Executioner Ani. Gaston rejoiced internally. Ani, the one rumored to be extremely fierce and ruthless. The arena manager mused. "Although I cannot reverse Lord Gaston's defeat," he proposed, "I promise you a brutal and gruesome slaughter. That will surely satisfy you." Gaston sneered, his laughter crisp and clear. "Sounds wonderful. It seems we're in for something very interesting." The old man left, not forgetting to add, "Make it as spectacular as possible." "Of course." The secretary looked at him and asked. The manager was trying to appease a fallen noble. He replied, "It's all for show." The manager looked at the notice that had been sent. An order to kill the slave boy came directly from the Evan family. His secretary asked in shock, "What?" His face was stunned. The Evan family? One of the most prestigious noble families in the country, said to have been founded by the god of war himself. The man's face was thoughtful as he thought about Milo. Even if he is related by blood, there's no way that spoiled brat could inherit this position. The next morning, in the arena, the grotesque man wore a human head on his belt. The black scythe. He looked at Milo with a hungry expression. "This is Executioner Ani." Milo observed his opponent. He has a scythe with a blade, while the kid only has a wooden sword. From the organizer's box in the stands, the man frowned. "This is basically a massacre." He stuck out his long, forked tongue. "Manager, you think you can do as you please with this cute face?" Ani looked at him with delight. "Tonight, try and collect as many heads as you want." "How refreshing." Milo closed his eyes and took a deep breath. "By the way," Milo growled angrily, "has the match started yet?" A sword swung past Executioner Ani's face, making him look on in astonishment. He raised his hand to block it, but it was no use. The blade struck him squarely in the face, sending him flying as he uttered, confused, "What?" The people in the stands watched in amazement. Executioner Ani was taken down in a single blow. The spectators discussed in disbelief. What happened to that kid? He's using a wooden sword against Ani. The arena manager and his secretary were stunned. A spectator continued, "This is absurd." Milo clenched his fist, thinking, "All right, I think that's about right." Others talked about him with malice. "That's a kid. A spoiled brat like him. Unbelievable." Milo sat there with his hands bandaged, ignoring their words. After defeating Ani, he went on to win 8 consecutive matches. Some of them were against strong opponents on the verge of winning their freedom, right? His eyes filled with admiration. What's even more amazing is that in this arena, where bloody battles are the main event, he has consistently adhered to the principle of non-lethal combat. Milo's face was thoughtful. Fighting in the slave arena has taught me a few things. He recalled, "First, my current strength is not equal to my peak. This must be because I'm using the body of a boy as a vessel. And another thing is, this boy's lineage is extraordinary. From the memories that are slowly returning to him, this boy's bloodline originates from the world-renowned god of war." Milo held the sword in his hand. If he continues to advance as a slave gladiator, something interesting is bound to happen. He looked over at the group of people on the other side. But first, suddenly, a thought occurred to him. "Good," Milo sneered. "There's no shortage of training partners here." The arena manager slammed his hand on the table. His face was contorted with anger. The order from the Evan family was to ensure the boy's death. He was furious thinking about Milo. But instead of killing him, he's been winning continuously. He frowned. Furthermore, his principle of non-lethal combat has won over the audience, who are now thoroughly enjoying his matches. The manager gritted his teeth. "At this rate, the Evan family will put pressure on us, and the arena will no longer be sustainable." The secretary spoke up. "Manager, you don't need to worry." He pushed up his glasses. This morning, they looked at Milo with delight. The secretary stood above. "We have arranged a special match. 10 against 1. I never thought things would come to this." He looked down below. "This is a special rule that follows no precedent. Just one wrong move, and the audience might riot." He explained as he looked down, seeing Milo surrounded by 10 other people. The jailer suddenly opened the door and shouted, "But, trouble?" The arena manager asked, "What's all the noise about?" At a busy time like this. This person entered. The head of the Wilson family. "Wishes to speak." He asked in astonishment, "The Wilson family?" Over here, Milo's opponents began to charge and attack him. Milo frowned, warily taking on their blows while thinking, "The boy who became my vessel." Milo thought back. After I died, he was named Happer Milo. His bloodline originates from a clan founded by the god of war. One of their branches is the Evan family, the main family, and more than 10 branches. All are among the most prestigious nobles. Despite belonging to this lineage, Milo's sword swung relentlessly. The Happer family is full of people with no talent for swordsmanship. However, what is noteworthy is that to decide the next successor, to determine who will inherit the title of God of War, candidates from 13 to 29 years old are gathered from both the main family and the branches. The results of this succession race play a crucial role in determining their rank within the clan. In other words, for the Happer family, which lacks skilled swordsmen, they have no other choice. Milo thought about many things as he defeated all 10 of his opponents. Milo closed his eyes. He remembered Valentinia, her last words, and the expression on her face when they parted. "I don't want this to be your end." One man took advantage of Milo's closed eyes and charged forward. "Hey you," he shouted. "You think you can relax and close your eyes?" He immediately opened his eyes, which were blazing with fire. He gathered his strength and lunged forward. He slashed through the man with ease. The man screamed in pain. He continued to think to himself, the position and power of the god of war are necessary to conquer the outsiders. The man was struck and slowly fell, observed by a girl from a distance. Milo looked over. He thought about the current situation. If I can rise as a swordsman here, I'll be summoned to participate in the succession competition. At least, that's what I think. Olivia approached him and asked, "Are you Milo?" She stepped on the man's chest. "Your skills, the ones that helped you defeat 10 slave gladiators." She smiled. Seemed truly impressive. Olivia extended her hand to him with an attractive offer. I have a request. If you succeed, I promise to restore honor to you and your mother. This offer made Milo smile. The next morning, on a stretch of land, a carriage was moving. Inside were Olivia and Milo. He furrowed his brow, thinking to himself, to summarize the woman's story. The direct lineage of the god of war, master swordsman, the Evan family. One of their branch families, the Happerbach family. A more distant branch of the Happer family. Like many other families, the Wilsons only produce daughters. If this situation continues, they will be unable to produce a male candidate, which is the duty of every lineage. For this reason, the family is on the verge of being dissolved. Olivia turned to look at Milo. Therefore, we want to adopt you, a close relative of the family line. She explained, bring you into our house and send you to participate in the selection for the god of war successor. Milo's eyes were thoughtful, and the reward for this is the restoration of my position, as well as clearing the false charges against my mother, who was unjustly executed. In other words, you're saying? Olivia replied, that's right. Olivia responded with certainty. I am asking you to risk your life. Olivia's eyes were serious. Regarding the requirements for this, the selection for the god of war's successor is extremely harsh. There may be deadly training sessions or battles to the death between candidates. Furthermore, the carriage continued to roll on. If you achieve outstanding results, Olivia emphasized, the possibility of becoming a target for poisoning plots or assassinations is unavoidable. Milo replied, I understand. Your goal is to adopt me into the family, present a male candidate for the selection, and ensure the Wilson family's bloodline does not die out. Milo's face showed a hint of suspicion. Why tell me all this? Milo looked at her, confused. Don't you think explaining the risks might make me hesitate and refuse? Olivia stood up. The motto of the Wilson family is to live frugally and maintain purity. She frowned slightly. Even in swordsmanship, we always uphold fairness and honor as our guiding principles. She clenched her fist with determination. If I am to ask you to bet your life, Olivia replied, I must tell you everything completely and honestly. That is what I have decided. She answered with certainty and resolve. Milo observed, remaining silent. Milo crossed his arms and asked her, what's your name? She answered clearly, I am Olivia Wilson, the current head of the Wilson family. Milo observed her silently. How unexpected. Milo thought, even though I have fallen to the status of a slave, she doesn't look down on or despise me. Instead, she approaches me with true fairness and honesty. The carriage then hit a rock. It jolted the people inside. Olivia called out, what's wrong? She climbed out of the carriage. The driver was cowering on the ground. On the other side was a dark shadow. Lady Olivia, a demon bear has appeared from the forest. The bear, with its blood-red eyes, had killed the horse in an instant. She was shocked, speaking in disbelief. How could it be? In a place like this? Olivia's face turned pale. A grisly demon bear. This is... Milo observed the bear in front of him, thinking, this time of year is the bear's mating season. It must have come down here to find a mate. Olivia looked at the growling bear. It looks quite agitated. He turned and saw Olivia slowly advancing. She held a sword in her hand and said, everyone, step back. I'll handle this. The driver cried out, that's suicide. Call the nearby knights for reinforcements. Olivia cut him off. There's no time for that. You, escort Milo to safety. Milo observed, noticing Olivia's body was trembling with fear. Even though she wasn't confident against this bear, she still tried to hold her sword, ready to face it. He stared at her and then spoke. I agree with your attendant. You can't handle this. Olivia retorted, don't underestimate me. I know a few swordsmanship techniques myself. Milo stepped forward. Stay back. Olivia cried out in disbelief. What are you doing? Do you want to die? She placed a hand on his shoulder, reminding him, this isn't a match against a slave gladiator. This opponent isn't just an ordinary bear. She grabbed his shirt, a bit desperately, and continued, let me be blunt. You don't stand a chance. Don't let your arrogance cost you your life. The bear moved. Milo looked at her, confused, thinking, who was the one just ready to throw their life away? Milo sneered, speaking softly. I like you. The girl blushed, looking at him in surprise as Milo continued to say her name. Olivia Wilson. Olivia's grip loosened, and Milo immediately pushed her away. He looked at the bear in front of him and said confidently, I'll take care of this. Olivia suddenly blushed. He stood in front of her, thinking, what a foolish woman. Not thinking about her own benefit at all. Olivia's voice trembled. He's going to face everything head-on, fair and square. Milo held his sword and charged toward the demon bear. The tip of his sword coldly slashed towards it. Olivia was astonished. With a single slash, Milo had pushed the bear back. It foamed at the mouth. He focused his power into his sword, striking a blow at the demon bear before him. Milo sneered. The demon bear fell to the ground. Olivia exclaimed in shock, the grisly demon bear. How did you? Milo acknowledged her determination. How strange. He looked at her and was reminded of Valentina. She reminds me of someone. Milo slung the sword over his shoulder and said, in that case, I promise you, head on, fair and square, I will face the enemy before me. Milo spoke with certainty and cut them down. After defeating the demon bear, they successfully reached their destination. Olivia brought him to the citadel. She looked at Milo. I can only see you this far. All the arrangements. Olivia placed a hand on her chest. I wish you success. Milo walked out the main gate. The sunlight was blinding. He observed the world around him. In such a remote place. In front of him was the sight of people his age training. Productive, enthusiastic, systematic, disciplined. Milo thought, and they have facilities like this. Humans really do waste money on meaningless things. Someone called out, gossiping about him. Look, it's him. These two mocked him. I heard the disgrace of the Happer family has been replaced by a representative candidate. That useless kid from the Wilsons, the family famous for having so many daughters. Others chimed in, all their insults directed at him. Disgusting. I heard he was a slave until recently. The gossip buzzed. Really? I don't even want to eat with someone like that. Stinks. Stay away. Milo walked on calmly. He thought about the gossip around him. So, it seems I'm not welcome here at all. Milo sneered instead of getting angry. Interesting. He raised his hand and looked at it. The more obstacles there are, the more satisfying it is to crush them. Milo stopped in front of a house and wondered. He opened the map, looking around in confusion. Where is it? The dormitory should be somewhere around here. He continued walking, muttering. But this facility is so big. Suddenly, someone spoke. Hey, you. Milo turned to look. The person was a teenager about his age. Nice to meet you. He introduced himself. I'm Jasper. Jasper smiled at Milo and offered. You seem to be having trouble. If you'd like, I can. Milo showed no interest. He walked past the boy and continued on his way. Jasper hurried after him, blocking his path while calling out, Wait a minute. What do you want? He held up a finger. It seems you're looking for the dormitory, but you've been tricked. Jasper continued talking while Milo looked back at his map, confused. That map, you got it from the gatekeeper, right? There are people here who like to mess with newcomers. He replied. They bribed the gatekeeper to hand out fake maps. Milo frowned and asked, just to haze newcomers? How pointless. Jasper looked at him and continued. Taking care of rookies is the responsibility of the seniors. You're absolutely right. If you don't mind, I can show you the way. Milo considered, then reluctantly agreed. Fine. Whatever. In front of a magnificent house, Milo followed, thinking about what he had said. According to this pretty boy, this facility gathers people from both the main and branch families of the Evan clan. After a long period of training, they will decide who is worthy of becoming the god of war. The candidates are classified based on their swordsmanship skills and other abilities, and they are assigned ranks D, C, B, A, or S. Currently, no candidate has reached S rank. Jasper led Milo down a staircase. He chattered on and on about the place. Sorry to keep you waiting. We're almost there. Milo looked around, asking warily, This is the A dorm? It's in a pretty gloomy place. Jasper replied, To be honest. Jasper stammered. You're from the slave class, right? The other candidates seem to really dislike you for that. Jasper led him to a door. That's why you're being harassed like this. He pushed the door open. And well? Milo looked inside. Inside, his opponents were waiting for their prey. They sneered, excited to see Milo. Jasper grinned, revealing his true nature to Milo. Actually, I'm in the same boat. Milo frowned, annoyed. A few of the group approached Milo, looking down on him. Jasper suggested, "Show him the difference in class." Milo glanced over, observing Jasper from behind. He has a complicated background as well. Jasper, his swordsmanship is extraordinary, but his real strength lies in his political abilities. Even before the selection exam began, he used his status and wealth to draw candidates from other families to his side. This is how Jasper gained his dominant position here. Another man pulled out a thick cushioned chair, speaking politely. "Lord Jasper, this way, please." He replied, "Thank you for your consideration." The people here admired him. Truly, Lord Jasper is admirable. Milo looked around, assessing the situation. The others looked at him, thinking, if this guy gets beaten and runs away, that's one less eyesore from the slave class. Another spoke up. If he stays as a candidate, we'll have another strong and useful piece. Jasper stood above his followers. And the fear sown here will put pressure on the other candidates, helping to expand our faction even further. The man in gray behind him was impressed. Someone with such a sharp mind is rare. Lord Jasper is truly worthy of becoming a divine warrior. Milo looked at them and asked politely, "I have a question. Where is my wooden sword?" His words brought a burst of crisp laughter from the group. Another man spoke up, "As if you have a chance." The other man got close to Milo's face and pointed at him. What's about to happen is just a one-sided beating. Milo let out a breath. He then bent his knees to warm up while replying, "So, I don't need to wait for a signal to start." He stretched his arms and legs in front of the group's eyes. Then he disappeared in the blink of an eye. The people there stared with wide, astonished eyes. Milo had already gotten behind him. His hand struck the man's neck, taking him down in a single blow. Jasper frowned, observing. Another man charged forward, cursing him. "You bastard." He swung his weapon, but Milo dodged it. "Die." He also began to attack, landing a devastating punch to the other man's face, sending him flying. Blood spurted from his nostrils. The man slammed into a pile of things on the other side. Milo spoke. "That's enough for a warm-up." Jasper had to jump out of his chair. He got into a defensive stance, wary of Milo. Jasper, seeing this, was a bit taken aback. "Huh? Who is this guy?" Those two have undergone rigorous training since childhood. They're D-rank masters. He overwhelmed them with just his bare hands. His voice stammered. "Who is this guy?" Milo frowned, looking at them. Then he said to Jasper, "Anyway, Jasper, or whatever." Milo waved his hand, directly challenging him. "When are you going to show me this difference in class you were talking about?" Milo challenged him again. "When are you going to show me this difference in class you've been bragging about?" Jasper looked at him and replied, "I see. So that's how it is." Milo was wary, looking at him without a word. Jasper said sarcastically, "I thought you were just an ordinary slave, never properly trained. But perhaps I underestimated you." He continued to deduce, "I didn't expect the Happer family to be a martial arts lineage." Milo wasn't interested in Jasper's rambling. He asked directly, "So what? Are you going to fight or not? Let me know." Jasper spoke up, "I don't think I'll lose to you." He waved his hand and smiled. "But this is enough for today." He left in a flash, leaving only a farewell. "Well then, see ya." Jasper and his subordinate were on the road. He spoke. "Sid, do you know why I retreated just now?" Sid replied respectfully, "No, my lord." Jasper explained, "Know your enemy and know yourself, and you will not be imperiled in 100 battles." He commented, "I know too little about him." Then he smiled and continued, "With my skills, I could win 90 out of 100 fights." Jasper continued as he walked, "But there's another reason." Sid asked, confused, "What is it, my lord?" He commented, "A swordsman from the slave class. Everyone thought he was just a novice, but he is a talented martial artist. Right now, only we know that. Even though it's a small piece of information, it gives us a new advantage." Jasper sneered as he continued, "In the upcoming test, simply put, when something unexpected happens, we should also consider the benefits it might bring in the future." Sid smiled, finally understanding the hidden meaning in his actions. "I see." As expected of Lord Jasper. Jasper smiled wickedly, affirming, "Well, Happer Milo is worth keeping an eye on." The next day, Milo sighed in the forest. "Just finished packing in the dorm, and I'm already this busy." The man, hearing him, reminded him, "Don't complain. He gently corrected his attitude. This is the welcoming ceremony for newcomers. He was an examiner for the trial. The man pointed ahead while explaining, the rules are simple. At the end of this path, there is a memorial statue erected by the first god of war. If you can retrieve the information from that statue and answer my question correctly, you will be officially recognized as a qualified candidate for the selection exam. Sounds easy. However, this bamboo forest is the breeding ground of the thunder tigers. Milo thought to himself, thunder tigers. A-rank difficulty monsters. The man agreed and continued to explain. That's right. When they gather in a pack, their danger level is even rated as catastrophic. He thought about the nature of this test, meaning this is a test of courage. If you follow the right path, you won't have to face the thunder tigers. Only by overcoming the fear of death can one. Milo had already taken his first steps. He asked the man, so I just need to get to the end of the path, right? The examiner quickly stood up and scolded him, annoyed. I'm not finished talking. Remember to follow the instructions and listen to the end. He held his forehead, confused. Honestly, I don't know whether to call him brave or reckless. He slowly ventured deeper into the forest. The dense canopy of trees covered the entire space in green. Milo walked through them, his eyes never letting down their guard. Seeing a small sign, he wondered, here? The sign had a long black arrow with the words, Memorial is this way. Milo followed it, unaware that someone was watching him from a distance. This person grinned. Idiot. He said a few mocking words about Milo. He fell for the fake sign. He thought to himself, Lord Jasper said to leave him alone, but this guy humiliated me. Being eaten alive by the thunder tigers is what he deserves. Milo stopped. Strange noises surrounded him. Milo frowned, wary of the danger. A thunder tiger leaped out. It charged at him. Milo quickly drew his sword. One slash cut through its body. The thunder tiger died instantly without making a sound. Milo frowned. He stood looking at it after having split it in two. Milo's eyes glanced behind him as he muttered, I thought after taking one down, the others would know to back off. But they were the kin of the one that had just died, growling menacingly. They slowly surrounded Milo. He spoke, I don't want to kill you senselessly, but I was once the Demon King. His hand tightened on his sword as he continued, I'm not generous enough to let you brats dance around in front of me. The sign that misled Milo was seen again, this time by the examiner. He thought worriedly, he hasn't come back, so I came to check. Is this the work of that other candidate? If so, that's truly low. He hurried to find Milo. I can't let someone die in a courage test. When he arrived, he was shocked. In front of him was a pile of thunder tiger corpses. He muttered in disbelief, what is this? From a distance, a black figure was approaching. He called out, Milo. His face was confused as he looked at the boy. The examiner observed Milo and understood everything. So that's it. He exclaimed, this boy. He stared at the pile of thunder tigers. Before, almost no one could take down an entire pack of thunder tigers like this. He was pleased with the result he brought back. But this year, there are a few people, including Milo, who are truly different. Milo finally spoke. I've read the information at the memorial. What's the question? He gave him the question. Aspiring to the pinnacle of martial strength, what do you desire most? Milo closed his eyes in thought, then spoke. What I desire is heaven. He looked up at the sky. That's all. The guest house. Olivia was elegantly sipping tea. A woman behind her was gossiping. That girl has no shame. Olivia glanced over when she heard the gossip. A lowly mixed blood, just a slave promoted to a candidate. The two continued to whisper happily to each other. It's disgusting. What a disgrace to the family name. He'll definitely fail spectacularly. The other woman agreed with her. That's right. Olivia approached just as they were laughing. The woman stopped short as tea was poured over her head. The one who poured it was none other than Olivia. They cried out in surprise and annoyance. What? What do you think you're doing? Olivia warned her directly. If you know what's good for you, don't you dare mock him. The woman who had tea poured on her growled. You, harlot. Olivia just looked at her, her face expressionless. The woman asked again, what in the world are you expecting from a slave like him? He'll run away sooner or later. Then she cursed. When it's time to fight, you can just show your face and suffer the humiliation. Just you wait and see. Her companion had to try her best to pull her away, but her mouth never stopped cursing. Olivia watched them go and said, "Think what you want. I can endure any kind of humiliation." Olivia left and entered a forest. That day, the grisly demon that Milo defeated, there are many candidates who could defeat a demon of that level. By normal standards, his chances of becoming a god of war are extremely low. But Olivia silently recalled everything. Milo has something. I can feel it. She arrived at a house. Smoke was rising from it, suggesting someone was cooking. She thought with certainty, "I'm sure of it." This hut. A man had appeared behind her without her noticing. He smiled and asked, "Are you looking for me for something?" She was startled and quickly stepped back, warily keeping her distance from him while drawing her sword. "Since when?" "I didn't notice at all." He laughed. "Oh my, so defensive." Olivia looked at him and thought, based on my martial arts training experience, I can be sure. On the outside, he seems gentle, but inside, he's hiding a monster. This person is the first god of war. He observed her and commented, "Not a bad stance." It turned out he was observing her body from head to toe. Bust, 78. Waist, 65. Hips, 83. Olivia trembled with anger, cursing inwardly. Perverted old man. He chuckled again, commenting perversely, "Developed quite well, hasn't she?" Olivia cursed silently. If he weren't the first god of war, I would have cut him in half. She stated her purpose. "I came to check on the candidates sent by the Wilson family." He understood and immediately asked, "That kid? Come here. I'll show you something interesting." He then waved his hand. "Follow me." Olivia followed him, confused. What in the world is it? Olivia was astonished. In front of her was the pile of Thunder Tiger corpses that Milo had made. She asked in disbelief, "This? Milo did this?" The examiner replied. He continued to comment seriously, "Even I have never seen anyone capable of something so terrifying." The examiner thought to himself, "The Thunder Tigers. Their difficulty is on a completely different level." She thought in disbelief, "He's like this? I knew he had potential, but to this extent." The examiner continued, stroking his chin. "By the way, young matriarch of the Wilson family, remember not to tell anyone about this." Olivia asked, puzzled, "Why? If this gets out, that kid will be treated differently." He approached the pile of Thunder Tigers and replied, "By tradition, the god of war should avoid participating in the selection process as much as possible. Just let the council members handle it." He held a bundle of incense and lit it, clasping his hands in prayer. When he turned to look at her, his expression was strangely serious. A conclusion was uttered. "But there is one thing I can be sure of. That kid is a trump card." He lit the incense, gave her his instructions, and then turned to leave. "Well then, Olivia, I have to go coordinate the trial for the last candidate." A person approached them. The examiner's expression changed. "Why?" he asked the person with concern. "Is it you again?" At that moment, in the assembly hall for the God of War candidates, also known as the Hall of 100 Battles, Milo was present with the other candidates. An announcement came from above. And so, the final candidate for the God of War has arrived at the Hall of 100 Battles. The person smiled. Officially, the selection exam begins. "I am Aaron Smith, one of the 10 sword saints who will be supervising this exam." The name, once spoken, immediately sparked curious whispers from below. Aaron Smith? A member of the supervising Evan family? A sword saint who climbed the ranks on his own. Completely based on his own strength, despite not being from the main family. Aaron continued to explain, "Starting today." But someone raised their hand, interrupting him. "Wait a minute," he arrogantly said. "I am the eldest son of the Zal family, one of the 3 most powerful lineages of the Evan clan. I don't know who you are, sword saint or whatever, but how dare you speak to us like that when you don't even carry the blood of our clan?" Aaron laughed at this arrogant attitude, as expected from a candidate from the main line. Full of confidence, aren't we? Then he took a deep breath. The person was startled. Aaron's expression changed. The eldest son was jolted. Before he could react, he was blown backwards. He cried out as he hit the ground with a loud thud. It wasn't just him. Others were also affected by this killing intent. Some had trembling limbs, while others fell to the ground. He scrambled to his feet, stammering in fear. What was that? On the side, someone thought, this person, just by releasing his killing intent, He can blow people away? Aaron announced loudly to the candidates present. Listen up, all of you. Things like family status or bloodline are only useful in the outside world. Here, strength is what determines everything. Don't like it? Then get out. Go home and cry to your mommy in your mansion beds. Aaron looked at Milo, confused. How is that slave still standing? Others chimed in, making malicious assumptions about him. That's right, it must be. He must be doing it on purpose. Aaron looked at Milo, and Milo looked back at him. Aaron suddenly lunged to attack him. The people present watched in astonishment. He sneered, swinging down at the boy. Milo didn't move an inch. The air froze in an instant. All eyes were on him and the instructor. Aaron was curious. Why didn't you dodge? Milo began to analyze. The movement of the attack, the change in his eyes, the killing intent. I knew the sword wouldn't hit me, so why bother dodging? Aaron was satisfied. He then made an offer. Want to have a match with me? The school, famous for the Evan family's influence, has surpassed national borders, reaching the world. Commoners duel with swords, from dojos to the streets. Or nobles, from private lessons for noble children. Or soldiers, even military advisors serving many nations. Many disciples of the school come from all walks of life, noble or commoner. The number has exceeded 1 million. He is Aaron Smith. Despite his commoner background, he managed to become the third strongest among the 10 sword saints. In other words, he is in the top 2% of 1 million people. A strong man among the strong. Aaron spoke to Milo. Get ready, rookie. He frowned and glanced over. Aaron used physical enhancement. The aura emanating from him was utterly terrifying. The other candidates present were astonished, using their hands to shield themselves. What? Just a simple enhancement technique can create such a strong wind. Milo observed Aaron while thinking, the quality and quantity of this fighting spirit. A person could never measure it. To be honest, facing someone of this level. He gave a wicked, sinister smile. Milo felt excited. This feeling, it seems I had forgotten it. The blood in my veins is boiling, my skin is trembling, my heart is pounding relentlessly. Aaron thought, seeing my fighting spirit, the excitement is written all over his face. But he tightened his grip on his weapon, wondering, is he a complete idiot or just a once-in-a-millennium genius? Aaron raised his sword, getting into an attack stance. Milo was still smiling. As he was thinking, anyway, I will definitely tear off that mask. As soon as he finished his thought, he charged forward to attack. Aaron Smith. His personality, like his appearance, is robust, strong, and decisive. Aaron Smith. His knowledge is also robust, strong, and decisive. A solid body. In other words, he has honed his physique to perfection, betting everything he has on raw power. And he swings his sword with that powerful arm, splitting his opponent in two with a single slash. He is the embodiment of a swordsman's strength. However, just as Aaron was about to bring his sword down on Milo's head, a scene suddenly appeared before his eyes. Milo. No, the Demon King. The image of the Demon King emerged from Milo. He showed the arrogant smile of the strong, causing Aaron to widen his eyes in astonishment, crying out, "What?" But he was already in the middle of his swing and couldn't stop. On the other side, Milo was doing the same. An explosion was created. Aaron's memories were pulled back. The examiner had taught him. Listen carefully, Aaron. Swordsmanship leans towards defense. He asked, so what is the strongest method of defense? Aaron considered for a moment, then answered cautiously. Is it honing one's physique, mastering the power of muscles and techniques? Aaron answered clearly, reaching a peak where no one can harm you. He continued, that's an attack in swordsmanship. I'm asking how to defend. Aaron was honest. I don't understand. He explained kindly. It's simple. When fighting an opponent you might not be able to defeat, or one you definitely cannot defeat, never strike first. That is the highest form of defense, the best way to protect yourself. He smiled as he continued to instruct. That's all. Of course, if you are forced to attack, you must not hesitate. In the present, Aaron remembered that memory. At that time, he had swung his sword deep, almost reaching Milo. Milo smiled faintly, also drawing his sword to retaliate. A large explosion was created, blinding everyone present. Dust and smoke filled the air. Aaron had adjusted to slash the ground. He himself was surprised. Milo spoke. A moment ago, That was an attack you had no intention of launching. And now, you've changed your tactics mid-swing. He frowned, asking seriously, what exactly do you mean by that? At this moment, the action Aaron chose. The old teaching echoed once more. When fighting an opponent you might not be able to defeat, or one you definitely cannot defeat, never strike first. That is the highest form of defense, the best way to protect yourself. As a direct disciple of the god of war, this ideology had been ingrained in his mind since childhood, seeping into his very bones. Therefore, Aaron himself didn't understand why he had redirected his sword's attack. Another person approached him, stammering a reminder. Aaron Dono, time is short. Please end this game quickly. Aaron glanced at him and then replied. He turned and left without another word to Milo. He observed Aaron, thinking, what a disappointment. I thought I was finally going to have some fun. Aaron glanced at Milo as he left. The scene I saw before. He then asked himself, what was that? Who in the world is this kid? Aaron spoke to the candidates present. All right, everyone. We have arrived. This is the arena for the first round. The arena for the first round. There are many fighting rings. The candidates buzzed with excitement as they saw the arena. Are we going to fight on that? Another wondered, are we starting with actual combat right away? Aaron Smith continued to explain, the first test is a battle royale. 10 candidates will step into the ring. To win, you must meet one of 3 conditions. 1. The opponent surrenders. 2. Push the opponent out of the ring. 3. Render the opponent unable to fight. The last 5 people remaining in each ring will pass the first round of the test. Another person spoke up after he had explained the rules. Aaron Dono. Aaron replied, what is it? The person reminded him, isn't it too early to use force to eliminate them? There are people of different ages, and their martial arts training time also varies. This makes the competition more about luck, and for those who need room to grow, it might be a bit difficult. Faced with these veiled words, Aaron's attitude was extremely dismissive. He asked indignantly, what are you talking about? They're not 8 or 9-year-old kids. If they think they can get stronger by holding hands and walking together, they won't survive in real combat. Aaron continued to explain. Furthermore, the pass rate for this round is 1 in 2. If you haven't trained enough, you can avoid fighting the strong ones and just focus on the other 5 people in the ring. The person listened to him and then said, I understand. Adaptability and tactics in emergencies are very important. And observation skills too. Aaron continued to explain. For the candidates, this is one of the perfect opportunities to assess the strength and techniques of their opponents. He observed them, commenting, seeing how they react will be very interesting. The command was given. First round, begin. Jasper was the first to fight. His opponent charged forward with a loud roar. Take this. Jasper didn't move an inch. As the man charged, another person appeared and pushed him away. The person who was pushed lay on the ground, crying out in pain. The one who had struck spoke. You picked the wrong opponent. They introduced themselves. We are Lord Jasper's bodyguards. We will not let anyone here touch Lord Jasper. The other opponents were wary. Jasper gave a faint smile. Well done, everyone. I'll leave the rest to you. The group replied in unison. Yes, my lord. He continued. Now then, this is a rare opportunity. He spoke. For a special advantage in the future, I will take this chance to observe. But he stopped short as he sensed something. Jasper looked to the other side. A young man was emitting a powerful, murderous aura. He was Maxi Milan Evans. Jasper was stunned, thinking, that killing intent. A foolish man charged forward to attack him. Die. Evans swung his arm. He slammed it down on the ground, sending the attackers flying. Jasper watched in astonishment. The men fell, crying out in pain. The referee asked in shock, what? Evans explained, can I just eliminate all of them, referee? Jasper silently calculated. Just as I thought. Maxi Milan Evans, grandson of the god of war, is the strongest. He watched Evans without blinking. I can't believe he can eliminate everyone with just a bit of killing intent. The rumors that he has reached the level of a sword saint don't seem to be unfounded. Milo Wilson. The opponents looked at him and gossiped. What a pity. That slave kid, you'll be the first one eliminated. Agreed. They declared, judging Milo to be the easiest to defeat among them. He calmly spoke, seal. Followed by the technique, form of the flow in life. He attacked the sealed opponents. The other men cried out in frustration. Damn it! Why can't we hit him? Jasper was in disbelief. What? He dodged attacks from 9 people at the same time. Milo was a bit helpless. I thought I could train to regain some of my strength, but fighting guys at this level, even with 30 of them, they couldn't even touch my shadow. Aaron, on the outside, never took his eyes off Milo. He was surprised. What kind of technique is that? I've never seen that technique at the Evan school. I have to keep up. It seems he's hiding his inner strength. His eyes never left Milo as he calculated. If that's the case. A bold thought flashed through Aaron's mind, but he quickly dismissed it. No, I'm overthinking it. But Aaron's gaze shifted to Evans. That kid, Evans, is also hiding his inner strength. Then to Jasper, and he formed a group to use this test as an opportunity to observe. The referee wondered, seeing his attitude. Arendano, you look happy. He replied. These arrogant brats seem to be begging for a lesson. He continued. I can see a few geniuses who might even surpass the power of the current god of war. The referee, in disbelief, laughed and replied. Surpass the power of the current god of war? Impossible. My job is to take these unpolished gems. Aaron's passion burned as he smiled. And forge them into brilliant jewels. You kids better get ready. I'm going to show you a hell that will make you cough up blood. At that moment, in the Hall of 100 Battles, in the dining hall, the opponents were having a meal. Jasper ate while thinking. Finally, things have settled down a bit. But there's no time to rest. We need to plan our next move. In the recent competition, 3 people stood out the most. His gaze shifted to each one as he remembered them. One is Maxi Milan Evans, the top candidate to become the Divine Warrior. Next is another person, Milo Wilson, the dark horse of this competition. And the third person is, before the thought could form, an argument broke out on the other side. It cut off his train of thought. Hey, slave boy. A big, arrogant man spoke up. Eating alone? Want to be friends with me? Milo looked at him, annoyed. He glared at him unpleasantly. Jasper, on the opposite side, was also watching. He looked at the big man and thought, Arthur Sterling. His skills are top-notch. But his attitude leaves much to be desired. Sterling replied, Milo Wilson. Listen, I don't want to be the bad guy here. Quit the Divine Warrior selection. Right now? Milo was chewing loudly. I don't understand what you're talking about. Sterling came and sat opposite him, still speaking in that mocking tone. But because of you, the rules of the Hall of 100 Battles are being disrupted. Milo asked, rules? What are you talking about? Sterling's attitude changed slightly as he continued. In this world, family status and bloodline are everything. If someone like you, with your tainted blood, passes this competition, it will make fools start to question this absolute truth. He finished speaking while spitting a wad of saliva. You get it now, slave boy. The saliva landed on the plate of food next to Milo. He calmly ate his meal. I don't understand a single thing you're saying. But I do understand that you and I are not the kind of people who can see eye to eye. Sterling laughed, but his expression soon turned sour. You can act all high and mighty right now. I'm from the Sterling family, second only to the Evan family. Milo continued to eat. I don't care about your family. If you're done talking, get out of my sight. I can't stand the sight of you. Sterling acted, raising his fist. He slammed the table where Milo was eating. He quickly dodged it. Sterling shouted, Are you looking down on me? You want to be my punching bag, don't you? Milo replied curtly, If that's what you want. His words only made Sterling angrier. I don't mind. Jasper, on the side, spoke up to intervene. Both of you stop. He continued, Private duels are forbidden in the Hall of 100 Battles. Sterling glanced at him and asked, Who the hell are you? He explained, If you're so eager for a match, why not settle it in a mock battle under the guise of training? Then he suggested, I will supervise the 2 of you. Jasper smiled friendly as he asked for their opinions. This is fine, right? Hall of 100 Battles, second training ground. Jasper was pleased, laughing to himself as he commented, According to my assessment, to observe their abilities up close. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The 10 sword saints, the ones with the pass, the masters, the high-level swordsmen, their skills are almost at their peak. Even if we recruit 3 skilled individuals to our side, Maxi Milan always prefers to be alone. And Arthur's arrogance is too high. In that case, I will properly assess Milo's value here. And if he's usable, I'll take his mother hostage and bring him to my side. If he still refuses and becomes a hindrance, then he calculated his options, a knife already in his hand. Sterling spoke. Milo Wilson, do you realize you're making a terrible mistake? A mistake, he said loudly, his contempt for Milo clear in every word. I've shown many people hell in these mock battles. Now it's your turn. Milo looked at him with some caution. Sterling controlled his magic. He held a great sword in his hand. Sterling considered, my swordsmanship specializes in prediction. Once you're within 5 meters of me, I'll know your every move like the back of my hand. Jasper, on the outside, also envisioned Sterling's set of moves. If he uses his advanced mind perception skill, he can wrap particles of fighting spirit around himself and detect the movement of anyone who touches them. Even I would struggle against this if I saw it for the first time. Seeing it here is worth its weight in gold. I wonder how Milo will move. Milo glanced over. Can we start now? Sterling's face was contemptuous. Come at me whenever you're ready, weakling. He clenched his fist, his attitude calm as he replied. Well then, I won't hesitate. As soon as he finished speaking, he vanished, to Sterling's surprise. He looked around in confusion, trying to find Milo's figure. Sterling thought to himself. In that moment, Milo had approached him from behind. He disappeared. Sterling turned his head. Behind me. A blow was delivered cleanly. Milo struck Sterling's neck, causing a powerful shock. Milo spoke. I understand you're good at prediction, but it's useless if you can't react to my moves. Jasper was astonished by the one-sided outcome. Milo waited a moment, then asked again, Didn't you hear what I said? Jasper trembled, his mouth stammering. How? He was dumbfounded. Unbelievable. How? A small figure, with black hair falling over half his face. Jasper Bradwood was an unlucky boy. 5 generations ago, the old man sat on a chair, holding a sword full of imposing aura. The head of the Bradwood clan. The image of him defeating an opponent, ranking second in the God of War selection test, and rising to become an elder of the 3 great families, the Evans. One hand rested his sword on his shoulder, the other on his knee. However, the fact that the Bradwood family had never produced a God of War made him feel deeply humiliated. The old man left the sword behind, turned, and walked away. In the end, his dream remained unfulfilled, and he grew old and retired. In front of a room. Then one day, he stood before the old man with a sword strapped to his back. When the next God of War came to the Bradwood clan for training. In a short time, he defeated 3 opponents. The power of that successor God of War was so overwhelming that it made even the top disciple of the Bradwood clan. The old man leaned on his cane with both hands, observing. Looked like a child swinging a stick around. Suddenly, he gave a sinister smile and muttered, I've found it. In the silent space, the old man's voice echoed. I've found it. Outside, heavy rain fell on the roof of the ancient-style building. In the room, she sat by the bed, gently patting the sleeping child. Her eyes were gently closed, finding a brief moment of peace. Suddenly, the sound of a door opening shattered the silence. She was startled, her eyes flying open. The old man stood at the door, his deep eyes revealing no emotion. She tilted her head, her brow furrowing slightly as a sense of unease rose within her. He approached, grabbing her wrist. The old man said nothing, pulling her along despite her desperate cries. Father, what are you doing? The old man spoke in a cold, deep voice. As the head of the Bradwood clan, I command you. Hearing this, her pupils froze, a chill running down her spine. His face became terrifying as he uttered, You will bear the child of that God of War. And so he forced her to follow him, step by step down the cold corridor. A long dream, passed down through generations. Passing by a lit window, the old man didn't even look back. Even if it couldn't be achieved in his lifetime, he would pass it on to the next generation. Her forehead was beaded with sweat from anxiety. This was nothing short of madness, forcing this upon his own married daughter. He left only a cold silhouette behind. Whether the old man was sane at that time is unknown. Before a massive structure, this tragic story did not end. After that, the Bradwood family made it a clan principle to actively seek out strong bloodlines. Jasper's sister, following this tradition, was sent to be a concubine to an elder of the 3 great families, the Evans, a man 30 years her senior, despite Jasper screaming himself hoarse, unable to stop it. Her eyes shimmered with tears, just as she had reached puberty. Tears streamed down his hot, stinging cheeks. Jasper's trembling hand reached out. He wanted to hold on to his sister, but her figure grew more distant, slowly disappearing from his sight. The young girl fell into a deep melancholy. He sat listlessly on the bed. The chain of events that had bound his sister, how could he break it? His eyes stared blankly into space. To change the family's tradition, he needed to climb to a high position, like the clan head from 5 generations ago, who had become an elder of the 3 great families, the Evans. The next day, he picked up a sword and began to train with frantic intensity. Even if he had to eat dirt, even if he had to sacrifice his life, even if he was called a coward. Then, Jasper stopped and told himself he would do whatever it took. His figure grew taller over the years, with a sword strapped to his back, to climb to the top of the hall of 100 battles. His eyes shone with determination. That is why Jasper fights. In the arena, Arthur lay defeated, unconscious on the ground. Milo stood beside him, his face strangely calm, as if victory was a matter of course. Witnessing this scene, he couldn't believe what was happening before his eyes. What just happened before Jasper's eyes? The memory flashed through his mind. As Arthur prepared to attack with his sword, Milo vanished. It was as if Milo had disappeared. In an instant, he appeared behind Arthur and delivered a precise blow to the back of his neck. What kind of extraordinary speed! Jasper was frozen, his heart seemingly stopped, as he saw him unconscious on the ground. Could achieve such a feat? He only saw him bow his head in silence. Jasper couldn't accept it. Jasper's hand rested on the floor. The only thing he understood was that the key to becoming an elder of the 3 great families, the Evans. The only thing he understood now lay in the young man before him. This person was a true king, worthy of Jasper's reverence. Suddenly, Jasper knelt and bowed his head before him in absolute respect. Milo was stunned, his voice stammering with surprise. "What are you doing?" He raised his head and replied, "I respectfully offer myself to you, Lord Milo. Please allow me to serve you." Hearing this, he pursed his lips, a complex emotion flashing in his eyes. Jasper Bradwood. As soon as he finished speaking, Jasper bowed his head respectfully. With his profound knowledge, he chose to submit completely to Milo. At the same time, a shout echoed throughout the room. "Damn it!" Arthur clenched his fist and slammed it on the table. His eyes blazed like a wounded beast. "That bastard Milo, daring to humiliate me." Standing behind him, Marl spoke with a worried tone. "Lord Arthur, there's a rumor that Jasper has joined Milo." Hearing this, he gritted his teeth, veins popping on his neck. He crossed his arms and continued. Milo seemed hesitant, but Jasper insisted on becoming his subordinate. Every word Arthur uttered was laced with venom. "So that's how it is." He kicked a large chair and shouted, "They set me up." Arthur couldn't contain his rage and shouted again. "There's no way I would be knocked out without being able to do anything like that." In his mind, only a chaotic mess of thoughts remained. They must have arranged it beforehand. They poisoned my food to weaken me before I entered the arena. His face contorted with anger. They dare to look down on me. He then gave a decisive order. "Listen up, all of you. Let me make this clear once more." Arthur's eyes scanned the people around him as he spoke. "What is our lineage?" They replied in unison. "The Sterling family, a noble lineage." He nodded, his voice continuing to resonate. "And who am I, born of that noble lineage?" They answered quickly, almost reflexively. "The one who will become the strongest god of war, that is Lord Arthur." A smile appeared on Arthur's lips as he spoke. "Knight? That's right, isn't it?" Their applause thundered in unison. "That's right." Suddenly, his eyes darkened as he spoke in a low voice. "Milo Wilson, don't think it's over. I'll show you something you'll never forget." Night fell, the full moon illuminating the scene. 6 examiners sat around a circular table. Hyakuba Dojo, the examiners' meeting. The man opposite spoke in alarm. "Are you serious?" "My God." Aaron placed both hands on the table and replied calmly. "I'm completely serious. You know, the candidates who passed the first test, starting tomorrow." His eyes flashed with determination. "The 5-wheel spirit forging will be conducted." In the distant mountains, clouds drifted lazily, and dense bushes were scattered about. What is the five-wheel spirit forging? It is a challenge where candidates isolate themselves to cultivate for 3 months on the sacred dragon's rest mountain to enhance their strength. The woman opposite spoke up. If it's conducted at this time, 80% of the candidates will drop out. The man opposite spoke. Either way, this is still too soon. Aaron remained unshaken, answering firmly. Then 80% of the candidates will drop out. The two of them were shocked. He showed no signs of confusion and continued. It's fine to rush things. Aaron spoke steadily. To cultivate the strongest god of war in history. Unless I'm mistaken, this batch of candidates has a lot of potential. The man sat silently, listening to his every word. Besides, I'm not a demon. He pointed to himself and continued. Those who are not yet capable, I will personally train them for a month. That way, they can at least hold their own on the sacred mountain. The man hesitated, but Aaron cut him off with an order. Tomorrow, we will conduct the spiritual battle aura survey. Those who pass will proceed to the five-wheel spirit forging. Those who need special training will follow me. His decisive voice echoed throughout, concluding the tense meeting. That's all. Dismissed. The sky was clear, white clouds drifting with the wind. The next day, in the registration area, the person in charge was recording the names of the candidates. In the stands, a crowd had gathered, everyone filled with excitement. On this side, Arthur's face was brimming with fighting spirit, as if today was the day he would reclaim his honor. The image of a large monster with 4 pairs of eyes and sharp teeth. Spiritual battle aura. It is a secret technique created so that powerless humans can fight against monsters. The martial artist, with his eyes closed, was regulating his chi, emitting an invisible pressure. It is fundamentally different from physical enhancement techniques. Muscles tensed, veins bulging. This skill encompasses everything that humans call martial arts. No, it would not be an exaggeration to say that it is martial arts. The announcer stepped into the center of the arena, his voice echoing through the stands. Next, Maxi Milan Evans. Evans, with his white hair, wore black gloves covered in strange runes. The onlookers were impressed. Amazing. His presence is like. The image of a giant, azure tiger appeared behind him. The crowd around him exclaimed, swallowing a dragon. Like a tiger. Aaron stood to one side, observing with his arms crossed. His face was cold, like the chill of a snowy winter. His eyes gleamed with interest as he thought, what an unpredictable child. It's clear he's still not going all out. But then, Aaron put his hands on his hips, puzzled. Now, the others, you can't use spiritual battle aura? Milo remained calm. Yes, I can't use it. And I never even thought about using it. Then he smiled savagely. Because I was once a demon. The announcer thought, somewhat helplessly, why does he seem so smug? He asked curiously, so how did you pass the first test? Milo paused for a moment, thinking, I used demonic battle aura. If I say that, it will only cause more trouble. He raised his hand and threw a light punch, answering, I just used martial arts. The announcer's eyes widened, his face full of disbelief. Martial arts. The two people behind him couldn't help but sneer. Seriously? That guy is just a weakling. They continued to laugh and joke. If he can't use spiritual battle aura, he must be from a lowly lineage. Jasper frowned upon hearing those words. Let those idiots think what they want. As expected of Lord Milo. He raised his hand, stroking his chin thoughtfully. Both Sword Saint Aaron and a few others seemed to have realized the truth. Aaron showed his interest, his eyes lighting up as he recalled. Moving like that without using spiritual battle aura? What an unpredictable person. But then, a sense of regret appeared in his heart. However, if that person really can't use spiritual battle aura, what a pity. Milo waved his hand dismissively and spoke clearly. It should be fine. Let me go to that sacred mountain. Aaron hesitated in his reply. Well, you see, Milo. He approached and placed a hand on Milo's shoulder, as if acknowledging his decision. Aaron smiled brightly. You'll have to stay here for an extra month of training. Those words brought a silence to the space. He was shocked, unable to believe his ears, and said loudly, This demon king has to stay behind. Aaron raised his hand and said, All right, those in the extra training group, follow me. His footsteps echoed, the powerful sound urging everyone to follow. On the upper floor was a series of training rooms, like an endless maze. Aaron walked and introduced. This is the training hall, where I will train those of you who cannot use spiritual battle aura. His entire body suddenly glowed with a faint golden light. By mastering the flow of energy, your 5 senses will become sharper, and you will achieve a state of absolute clarity, also known as the 6th sense. You will be able to detect the movement of your opponent's eyes, feel the contraction of their muscles, and even predict their attacks from the rustle of their clothes. The golden light enveloped him, as if his energy was filling the space. The trajectory of the sword's tip becomes clearer, and if you improve further, you can even predict precise movements from the slightest fluctuations in the air, helping you predict attacks with an accuracy almost like seeing the future. The two opponents will have to face each other directly. Aaron held a crossbow in his hand, his voice ringing out. For the next month, you will practice dodging my attacks, from thrown stones to wooden swords. In the end, you will be able to dodge a volley of arrows while blindfolded. Then, he lowered the crossbow and continued. If everyone has mastered that, you will be allowed to go to the sacred mountain. Any questions? Suddenly, a voice called out, "Instructor." Milo's eyes showed no fear as he asked, "Can I take the arrow test right now?" A few people standing nearby burst out laughing. What is he talking about? He can't even use spiritual battle aura. I hope he gets turned into a pincushion. So arrogant. But he just smiled, a thought crossing his mind. Normally, I would just laugh it off, but this guy isn't normal. He stood up straight, proudly saying, "All right, show me." Milo took a black cloth and tied it over his eyes. On the second floor, everything was prepared. First, 2 people stood on the left side, then 3 on the right. Finally, on the other side, the remaining 3 people surrounded Milo from all directions. Aaron placed 2 archers on the railing and shouted, "Ready? Begin." As soon as the command was given, 2 arrows shot through the air, leaving only a trail of light. Without a moment's thought, 3 more arrows were fired. Aaron's eyes showed a hint of worry. "All right then, Milo." The sharp arrowheads tore through the air. The remaining 3 fired simultaneously. Seeing the arrows surrounding Milo, he thought, how will he dodge? When each arrowhead was just inches away, Milo showed no fear and slowly raised his hands. His body moved, his hands quickly catching 4 arrows. Witnessing this, Aaron's eyes widened in amazement. The 2 crossbowmen also stood stunned, their mouths agape. Watching Milo catch each arrow, Aaron thought, this guy not only dodged the arrows. In his hands were now all the arrows that had been fired. He had another thought. He even caught them with his bare hands. Milo raised his hand, slowly removing the blindfold, and said, "Is this enough to prove my strength, instructor?" He dropped his hands, and the arrows clattered to the floor as he spoke decisively. "I don't have time to be stuck here." On a high mountain peak, clouds drifted by. A young man was running in a hurry. A wound on his forehead, fear in his eyes, he stammered. "Impossible. That thing. It's not an opponent a human can fight." Suddenly, a large, scaly foot blocked his path. The monster had rough skin and a large, open mouth, which scared him so much he fell backward. Its eyes suddenly opened wide. He exclaimed in shock, "Damn it!" Suddenly, he saw his hands slowly turning to stone. Then his entire body was petrified. The monster's foot crushed the young man. This sacred mountain is a nest for monsters. Then it raised its head and roared loudly. With its terrifying, petrifying eyes, the basilisk spirit beast. In the 5-wheel spirit forging, self-sufficiency must be strictly followed. In an instant, his body was crushed, causing many to give up halfway. However, Jasper had his eyes closed tightly, contemplating something. He shifted his stance, bringing one leg back as a support. As the monster raised its claws to attack, Jasper's eyes remained closed, listening to the movements. He seemed to anticipate its attack, quickly dodging. Jasper grabbed his sword and cut off one of its legs. In a situation where opening your eyes means instant death, the monster fell back in pain and quickly fled. Enhancing and awakening the spiritual battle aura is extremely effective. He took out a weapon with a sharp tip and laughed to himself. "I won't let you escape." Instantly, the weapon pierced through the monster. It fell to the ground in pain. Jasper looked at its motionless body and said, "With this, I won't have to worry about food today." Then he slowly raised one hand. Some candidates improved their abilities rapidly. He held a knife and cut into the monster's back, thinking, more importantly, who would have thought they would abandon Lord Milo Wilson? The quality of the instructors here is questionable. Jasper's mind was uneasy. I wonder what he's doing now. A monster was impaled through the mouth with a stick. On the ground were numerous monsters impaled by poles. Suddenly, footsteps were heard approaching the scene. Milo wiped the blood from his knife with a cloth and said, "For 3 months, this should be enough." He walked step by step towards the small wooden cabin. Milo reached out and opened the door, stepping into a room full of books. His eyes lit up as he muttered, "Now then, let's begin." Milo picked up a book and read eagerly. He looked at it, thinking, I see. Milo chanted a spell, and a blue flame appeared in his hand. The basic combat aura, a human body. On the wooden shelf were many books. In the 5-wheel spirit forging, candidates received books covering everything from the basics to the advanced mastery of spiritual battle aura. Among them was a special book. In the end, the goal is to learn the opening passage of the secret manual of the Evan family. His face was calm as he muttered, as the image of a woman with golden hair appeared. Valentine had blue eyes and a smile. Milo pursed his lips slightly. She wore a suit of iron armor with a sword at her side. Then he closed his eyes and focused. He opened his eyes and looked at the light in his hand, saying, "If my spiritual battle aura remains this immature, Valentine will laugh at me." Milo's eyes narrowed slightly. The shapes of monsters appeared. His face became thoughtful. Milo held the book and read for a long time. Then, he stood up and unleashed a stream of light from his hand. Milo took a piece of meat in his hand and chewed it greedily. Slowly, his body focused its power better and better. His body was filled with streams of spiritual energy. While training and strengthening my own spiritual battle aura, I will also directly force the spiritual energy of the basilisk into my depleted spiritual circuit. It's been a long time. Milo raised a hand to look at it and felt it. Since the last time I felt like this, climbing step by step to a higher state. His face was excited as he smiled. This is thrilling. On a barren land with withered trees, 1 month later. The sound of footsteps suddenly stopped. Aaron stood in front of the wooden cabin. He tapped his finger impatiently. Aaron put one hand in his pocket and called out, "Milo, are you still in there?" He paused for a beat and continued, "I don't think a basilisk could take you down." Aaron opened the door and entered. He found a book on his face, sleeping soundly. Seeing this, his expression was one of confused annoyance. He approached and said loudly, "What the hell are you doing?" Milo woke up, sat up, and answered, "Instructor." Aaron picked up a book and asked, "Wait, you've read all of this already?" He stood up, stretched, and replied, "I've read it all and put it into practice." Hearing that, he couldn't believe it. "Come on, don't joke around. It takes at least 10 years to master this." Milo's voice rang out clearly. "The basic principles are exactly the same as a method I already knew. And more importantly," he raised his hand, and a blue light appeared. "I have a first-rate reference in my memory." The light grew stronger and spread. It forced Aaron to step back a few paces, shielding his eyes with one hand. More streams of light appeared from his body. The power grew larger and larger. Witnessing this sight, Aaron stood frozen. Milo looked at him and called out, "Instructor." He held up a book and said, "There's a problem with the opening of this secret manual." Aaron repeated, puzzled, "A problem?" Milo looked down and slowly continued, "The spiritual battle aura techniques written in here don't seem to work for me at all." Hearing that, Aaron's eyes froze for a moment, his mouth agape. Sunlight shone on the quiet scene of the wooden cabin. Aaron turned his head, exclaiming in surprise, "What the hell?" Then he looked at Milo and asked curiously, "What's the problem?" He stood still for a moment. The old man with the white beard was carefully writing on a page. "Did you read it carefully?" "The secret guide written by the founder of the God of War family. You know, anyone who pursues martial arts admires it. A perfect, ultimate method for using the sacred fighting spirit." Aaron put his hands on his hips and said, "There can't be any problem." He looked at the words in the book and replied, "In the historical records in this cabin." The image of the old man holding a sword, a living symbol of legend. "It is written that the founder of the God of War family." Milo's voice continued steadily. could cut an enemy in half from a distance of several meters with a single slash, carrying the fighting spirit. But then, his voice suddenly changed, like a plot twist. But currently, in the Evan family, who can do that? Aaron Smith crossed his arms and replied, "Not a single person." He raised his hand and said worriedly, "Even for me, a few meters is the best I can achieve. But that story is just a legend, right?" After a moment of thought, he calmly replied, "Proof is better than theory." The glaring sun was burning the wooden roof of the simple cabin. From Milo's hand, sparkling blue lights began to appear. The rays grew stronger and stronger. Aaron squinted, watching every movement, thinking, even seeing it again, it's still amazing. He felt a mix of surprise and excitement. I can't believe that until recently, this guy couldn't even use the sacred fighting spirit. He still stood still, his eyes serious as he spoke. Did the founder intentionally hide the true method? Or was it lost at some point? Milo drew his wooden sword and continued, "The truth is unknown. But the method of using the sacred fighting spirit recorded in that secret guide." Then he raised the sword in front of him, his voice challenging, "I will show you what lies beyond it." Milo tightened his grip on the sword, his eyes half closed to focus all his power. After a moment, he tilted his head, observing with a hint of doubt. "It doesn't look any different." But then, Aaron's eyes lit up. "No." He stared at the sword in his hand, surprised. "There's something in his sword. It's not just fighting spirit." Milo's eyes suddenly glowed red. He brought the sword back, and then, a powerful slash tore through the air. Witnessing this, he was dumbfounded, his jaw clenched in surprise. The slash shot through the air, cutting through the wind, and flew straight towards a nearby tree. Instantly, the tree was cut in half. On the ground, a deep gash was etched, extending in the direction the slash had traveled. Milo raised his hand, squinting as he said, "I estimate it's about 50 meters." Aaron stood silently, his mind blank for a few seconds. This guy? Looking at the gash on the ground, his eyes blazed with unconcealable astonishment. He has recreated the legend. When the shock gradually subsided, Aaron finally spoke. "Unbelievable. How did you?" He just replied with a calm expression, as if he had just performed a basic technique. The trick is surprisingly simple. A stream of light appeared on Milo's hand. He directed it towards the sword. The light swirled gently like a living stream of energy. Seeing this, Aaron was startled. "That, on the sword, all right." He stroked his chin, thinking, "What you just used was an enchantment." Milo just smiled and nodded in reply. "Exactly. Elements of different colors. The 5 elemental attributes, along with the light and dark attributes, form the foundation of a magic sword. Each side is a power. By using the sacred fighting spirit as a base, that combination is transferred into the sword. We can combine magical attributes. Even a wooden sword can be turned into a versatile magic sword." Every word he spoke was clear. That is the true method of using the sacred fighting spirit, developed by the founder of the God of War family. Milo slowly sheathed his sword with a simple gesture. But in his eyes, it contained a silent shock. That power. Aaron sat on a rock, his voice a mix of warning and concern. "You'd better avoid showing that in the selection exam." "Why?" As attentive eyes watched him. "If people find out you can use that power, researchers, historians, martial arts masters, instructors, government officials, you'll be dragged into interviews day and night, and then you won't be able to focus on the selection exam." His voice lowered. "That would be..." Milo cut him off. "A practical problem. But you could gain." He continued, his voice calm but sharp. "Wealth and fame from it. I don't care." Although, Milo closed his eyes briefly, as if preparing for a decision. "In that case..." Then he opened his eyes, looked at Aaron, and spoke. "I want you to spread this method to the world." He sat frozen, as if time had stopped. His words echoed in Aaron's mind. Suddenly, he shouted, jumping to his feet and waving his hands wildly in the air. "Are you serious? You're the one who discovered it." He crossed his arms and replied calmly, "I don't mind. And a warrior like you should understand the logic of this technique." He continued, emphasizing each word. "Of course, this isn't something you can master overnight." He opened his eyes wide. "This is unbelievable." In his mind, an image of Valentine flashed. This technique was discovered by Valentina, and at this moment, no one else can use it. Milo envisioned a scene of destroying monsters. If this method spreads, the way we use the sacred fighting spirit will improve significantly. It will enhance the overall combat strength of humanity and become a force against external enemies. Aaron rubbed his head in confusion. I really appreciate the offer, but damn it. Then, as if remembering something, he tilted his head with a questioning look. At this rate, who's the teacher here? When the training period ended, 2 months later, everyone returned to the arena. On the final day of the long-distance training course, he remembered the familiar faces. About 70 people remained. About 30% had dropped out. There were tired faces, lost eyes from the exhausting days, and also smiles and lively conversations. Suddenly, a voice rang out. I knew he'd make it to the end. Milo Wilson. Arthur rested his hands on his knees, his voice filled with anger. That damn kid. I haven't forgotten the humiliation of that day. Someone in the crowd whispered conspiratorially. Should we team up and attack him, Lord Arthur? He clenched his fists and said in a low voice, Forget it. I have something more interesting to show you. A mysterious smile appeared on Arthur's lips as he spoke in a low voice. My dark side. As a source of light enveloped Milo's entire body, someone exclaimed in surprise, Amazing. It's so big, many had to shield their eyes. In the crowd, a voice of admiration was heard. This isn't like what I heard. Isn't he from a lowly background? Those words made their faces freeze, silent for a moment. The announcer spoke softly. All right, that's enough. From behind, another voice stammered, Doubling. Arthur gritted his teeth, anger boiling in his chest. What the hell? That overwhelming fighting spirit. Meanwhile, Jasper crossed his arms, thinking, it seems even those idiots are starting to realize it. He covered his mouth and chuckled to himself. Although their analysis is still too shallow. At the same time, Aaron watched intently, a thought flashing through his mind. It's not just about the absolute fighting spirit. Thinking about that immense energy, a refined and solemn energy, sharpened even more than 2 months ago. Aaron scanned each warrior. Jasper wore a faint smile, as if holding a secret others didn't know. Milo's face revealed no emotion. Arthur had a grimace of unwillingness. Evans had the demeanor of a leader, like a sword buried deep in snow. Aaron's lips curled slightly in amusement. If he's at this level, he should be ready for the next match. Standing in the middle of the arena, he spoke loudly. All right, the sacred energy has been checked. Everyone has survived the 5-wheel spirit forging and now feels relieved. Every word Aaron spoke carried weight. But we don't have time to rest. The god of war is the head of martial spirit throughout the world. Naturally, this is an admirable, respected, and trusted figure. He took in the view of the entire city and continued. The connections you all make here, right in this Hyakubu training hall, will become a long-term foundation for becoming a god of war in the future. His eyes flashed with determination as he announced. And so, the next test will be. Silence fell over the entire arena. To form a faction of at least 5 people. Whether you become a leader and form your own faction, or join an existing one, the choice is yours. Hearing this, everyone was bewildered, looking at each other worriedly. Meanwhile, his voice echoed throughout. The deadline is tomorrow. Do your best. The people sitting behind looked around in panic. 5 people or more. What should I do? This is so sudden. Milo sat with his arms crossed, his lips pursed. Suddenly, a bold thought flashed through his mind. To gather subordinates for someone like me, who has commanded tens of thousands, this will be easy. Milo's face became fearsome. First, subdue them with fear. Then, torture them a little, and they'll be obedient. The purple-haired man behind him shivered and whispered. He looks serious. The person next to him said fearfully, I don't want to be in a group with him. Stay away from him. Just then, a voice called out, Lord Milo. Jasper approached and said, Congratulations on passing the next test. Milo repeated, puzzled, passed. He smiled and bowed slightly. I am one of Lord Milo's subordinates. Milo replied, confused, although I don't quite understand. Jasper continued, if I mobilize the subordinates for you, we can gather not just 5, but 22 or 30 people if you wish. Milo looked at him for a moment and then said, finding you from the start sounds like a hassle. Then he ordered, all right, Do as you say. Hearing that, he replied happily, Yes, my lord. Jasper hugged him tightly. This officially makes me a part of Lord Milo's faction. His refusal was as cold as ice, in true boss fashion. Don't cling to me. Arthur, with a dangerous expression, said, Enjoy your little moment of happiness before it ends. Night fell, the full moon hanging high in the sky. Its dim light cast over the large, white-painted house. Along the quiet corridor, there were rows of rooms on both sides. In the dark room, where the night lamp was off, is the image of Milo sleeping in bed. The seemingly innocent boy, sleeping soundly with his mouth open. A seemingly humorous scene, if not for the dark figure that appeared, its entire body cloaked, clinging to the roof. Its eyes shone like a wolf hunting its prey. It watched and cursed silently. You idiot, sleeping like a fool. He raised his hand and grasped the hilt of the sword on his back. Right here, right now. The tip of the sword pointed forward. A finishing blow from above. Your life is over. A straight, unhesitating stab. A deep, chilling twist. A decisive stab to the heart. But he thought the plan had succeeded. He held his position, thinking, and it's over. Suddenly, Milo's voice came from behind. You've chosen the wrong target to assassinate. His hand held a dagger close to the man's neck, his voice low. If you make a sound, I'll slit your throat. Sweat poured down the man's forehead like rain. His eyes shone with a sharp killing intent as he ordered, I know who sent you. Take me to Arthur. At the same time, 2 wooden mugs of beer clinked together. Arthur chugged the beer in his mug and said, I'm having a great time. Milo's probably being killed right now. Beer still clung to his lips. He sneered mockingly. Who would have thought the Sterling family's secret business was assassination? He turned to look at the bound Jasper and asked, Right? His body was covered in bloody wounds. He whispered, You cowardly hound. Jasper panted, trying to stay conscious. Then he asked curiously, But isn't it dangerous? Killing someone in the Hyakubu training hall. Arthur just laughed lightly, replying confidently, No problem. Thinking of the mutual slaughter, he continued, It's common for factions to fight each other here. Fighting to the death for power. We just need to fake Milo's and Jasper's bodies a bit, and the instructors won't suspect a thing. Jasper gritted his teeth and cursed, You fool. His eyes flashed with belief as he shouted, There's no way someone like Lord Milo would die at the hands of scum like you. Hearing these words surprised him greatly. Arthur stood up and walked closer, his eyes scrutinizing. So even you, the one everyone calls cold-blooded, have someone you trust. In the darkness, his voice was clear. You know, Marl, the reason he doesn't care about these methods is because his sister was sold off as a concubine. He recalled Jasper's painful memories. When she was just a child. To change that cycle of family tradition. He slowly opened his eyes, enduring the pain as he listened. He joined the god of war selection. Arthur grabbed his hair tightly. But deep down, he's still very gentle. You know what it's like inside those high-ranking families? It's all about maintaining the bloodline. His voice was full of satisfaction. Even if it means offering your wife or daughter. He licked his lips disgustingly. To a dirty, perverted old man. If it were me, I'd gladly do it. But a noise from behind made Arthur jump and turn around. Seeing his bound body on the ground, he shouted, You bastard. A voice called out, Arthur. The sound of hurried footsteps, each step like a blow to his heart. Milo appeared, his face as cold as ice, and spoke. You know what? People like you. Under the moonlight, his face was clearly visible as he continued, are called scum. Veins popped on Arthur's forehead as he said in a low voice, Milo. He glanced over at the injured Jasper. Milo had hidden behind the bushes and heard everything. He joined the god of war selection to fight the system itself. His sister was sold as a concubine when she was just a child. His expression changed slightly. I thought you were only acting for your own benefit. But it seems you were aware of it all along. Milo looked away from him, his voice low and warm. Don't worry, Jasper. Hearing his name, Jasper tried to open his eyes. Arthur and his men's faces changed, sweat pouring down like rain. His eyes glowed red, his knuckles cracking. I will show no mercy to those who rebel against their family. Arthur turned, his voice cold. Hey, stay still. Milo immediately froze, just a few steps away from him. He held a knife to Jasper's neck, his voice hissing threateningly. If you take one more step, This guy will be bathing in his own blood. Arthur growled, both wary and acknowledging the truth. The level and quality of that fighting spirit. Although I don't want to admit it, you're stronger than me. Suddenly, he laughed, a villainous laugh. He threw a glass vial at him and said, "That is, if we were to fight head-on." Milo caught it with his hand. His eyes were questioning as he looked at the words on the vial. "This is a spiritual battle or a circuit disruptor." Arthur nodded and stepped forward, answering, "That's right." He raised the knife, declaring as if live streaming to the world, a drug that forces the drinker to use the spiritual battle aura refinement process. "If you drink it, I'll spare Jasper's life." A moment of silence. He slowly replied, "Fine." Without a second's hesitation, Milo tilted his head back and drained the vial. Arthur watched, his lips curling into the smile of a successful schemer. He held the glass vial forward. Then he turned the empty vial upside down and said, "Satisfied?" Arthur threw his hands up in the air, cheering with excitement. "You really drank the whole thing." Arthur kicked Jasper hard and said, "Here, take him back. You're useless now. Get out of my sight." He put his hands on his hips, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "You seem like nothing more than a puppet." Arthur's face showed clear satisfaction. Someone who can't even use spiritual battle aura. Milo knelt down and asked, "Can you move?" He propped himself up with his hands and said in a low voice, "I am truly sorry, Lord Milo. I have failed you." He comforted him, "Don't worry too much." He looked at Jasper, a thought crossing his mind. To let the hostage go so easily. If you've walked the path of slaughter, you should see things through to the end. In that moment, Milo's eyes flashed with a sharp killing intent. Even for an assassin, one who lives by cowardice, you are the lowest of the low. Arthur clenched his fists, the sound of his knuckles cracking. Without physical enhancement, he threw a punch behind him, confidently saying, "To me, you're just a helpless, useless child. I'm going to enjoy the time I have crushing you until." Instantly, Arthur punched Milo straight in the face. He burst out laughing, thinking, "The sun rises, starting with your nose." But his hand suddenly glowed red as he exclaimed. Arthur's face froze for a moment, flustered as if he had lagged in the middle of a fight. Marl leaned over worriedly and asked. Arthur collapsed, clutching his hand, his face pale. "My hand." Then he scrambled to his feet, both in pain and anger, and screamed, "Milo, you bastard. What did you do?" He raised his hand, which was enveloped in a layer of brilliant golden light, and replied, "Diamond Aegis. A magical protective layer that covers the body with the hardness of diamond." Arthur was stunned and confused, repeating, "Diamond Aegis? How can you use such high-level magic?" Milo held his position, his voice contemptuous. "To put it in your terms." He just smiled and continued, "My secret profession just so happens to be a mage." Hearing this, sweat poured down his face like a summer rain. Suddenly, there was a slight movement in the air. No one saw when, but he had appeared right behind Arthur. He coldly raised his leg and kicked him hard in the back. The sound of breaking bones was chilling. Arthur's eyes widened, his face contorted in pain. From behind, Marl gritted his teeth and roared in anger, "You!" Before he could react, Milo threw a punch straight at his face. Instantly, he moved close to Arthur. If you think physical enhancement, his body moved as lightly as a wave, appearing and disappearing around him, is something unique to spiritual battle aura. Milo got into a stance, his hands clenched into fists. "Then you are sorely mistaken." Hearing this, his eyes showed a clear loss of control. His body began to move like the wind through a crack in the door. He unleashed a series of punches directly at his opponent's body, stunning Arthur into exclaiming, "What?" One of his cheeks was swollen, his breathing ragged. "What's happening?" Then another punch to the other cheek. I can't even keep up with his movements. Next was an uppercut from below. Wait. Hold on. What does he mean when he says being a mage is his secret profession? Milo grabbed Arthur by the collar and pulled him close. His eyes were cold, terrifyingly calm. "I believe you're willing to accompany me until dawn, right?" One of his eyes was swollen shut, his whole body trembling. Arthur fell to the ground, crawling backward and begging, "I was wrong. I lose." He knelt down, his head bowed to the ground, and pleaded desperately, "I'll apologize to Jasper. And to you. I'm sorry. Please spare me." Milo said nothing, just looked at him. After a moment, he spoke. Since you've surrendered so obediently, I should show some mercy, shouldn't I? But a dark thought flashed through his mind. In the end, this guy is just a soft-hearted fool. Coming here to save that Jasper guy, his finishing blow is lacking. Too naive. Suddenly, he grabbed Arthur's wrist tightly. He cried out in shock. Milo grabbed his wrist and twisted it backward. Seeing this, Arthur glanced over, trying to understand what was happening. His face was terrifying as he spoke, word by word. I will end this as an act of mercy for your apology. His eyes widened in fear as he stammered. No. Wait. Instantly, Milo's hand swung down, chopping off his wrist. A piercing scream echoed through the forest, weaving through the dense foliage. Arthur's arm was severed. Sweat poured down his forehead, his eyes rolling back in pain. Jasper witnessed the whole thing, unable to help but shudder. Milo approached, helping him to his feet, his voice calm. Let's go, Jasper. He remained silent, kneeling there, his head bowed. Arthur gritted his teeth, a silent rage simmering within him. He swallowed his anger and thought, you fools. You didn't pull the weed out by the roots. He gripped his shoulder, touching the broken bone, and vowed to himself, this wound will be healed with a little treatment. Arthur gave an order. I see. Marl, we leave tomorrow. Marl stepped forward from behind and replied curtly, understood. A murderous glint flashed in his eyes. Poisoning accidents. He followed Milo's back as he supported him, disappearing into the mist. Shot to death, falling off a cliff, blown up. Suddenly, Arthur gave a savage smile, a new idea forming. I have dozens of ways to take your life. From now on, you won't be able to sleep soundly. Walking in the darkness, his voice was worried. But are you really okay? Jasper limped and replied, I don't think that Arthur guy learned anything. He curled his lip, speaking nonchalantly. Getting involved with someone like him is just a waste of time. But if we kill him, we'll be disqualified from the exam. Milo's eyes flashed with the interest of someone setting a trap. Just wait and see. He's already in the palm of my hand. A cup of coffee, a pastry neatly placed on the table. The next day, a crowd of warriors sat eating and drinking, chatting lively. 12:30 p.m., the cafeteria. Suddenly, a voice, low and hurried, spoke up. Marl is gone. Arthur grimaced and said loudly, Didn't you say he was doing it today? The man's face changed as he stammered. But I heard from the instructor that. The man's face changed as he stammered. Marl has been disqualified from the exam. He's leaving the Hall of 100 Battles today. Hearing this, he was struck by lightning, his eyes wide. Disqualified? I didn't hear about this. Then, he stood up and quickly walked towards his usual table. Mikhail isn't here either. He's always here for lunch. The man quickly replied, I saw Mikhail this morning. His face was pale. He didn't look well. He said he would be resting in his room today. Arthur exploded. What the hell? You can't just take a break whenever you want without my permission. I'm the leader, understand? Then he turned to the man and lowered his voice, giving an order. I'm leaving the next mission to you. He slammed both hands on the table and said loudly, It must be done by tomorrow. No failures. We're having an emergency strategy meeting tonight. They sat silently, then quickly replied. Night fell, the sky a dreary gray. The next day, warm light illuminated the room. The cafeteria, 7:45 p.m. Arthur's eyes suddenly widened, bloodshot. I thought everyone would be here. Looking at all the empty seats, he roared in anger. But what the hell is this? His face contorted, his voice choked. Why is no one here? Suddenly, a knock came from the door behind him. The door creaked open. Aaron, still holding the door, spoke. Hello, Arthur. He was surprised and replied, Instructor Aaron? Why are you here? Hearing this, he entered without beating around the bush. I have something to talk to you about. I'll get straight to the point. Aaron approached and announced, Your 14 followers will all be failed in this exam. Hearing these words, he froze, unable to believe it. He crossed his arms and continued nonchalantly. This rarely happens. You need 5 people to form a team. Try to hold on until the next test. Aaron turned to leave, waving goodbye. You have 5 days. Make the most of your time. The door closed, the sound of footsteps fading away. Arthur stood silently, his eyes fixed on the closed door. Then his expression changed. Outside, It began to rain, the sound of raindrops pattering. Arthur sat on his bed, pulling the blanket over his head. The blanket trembled slightly with his ragged breathing. It's him. No matter how you look at it, it's clear he's behind this. Arthur's hands clutched the blanket tightly, his whole body shaking with anger and helplessness. What should I do? How can I find 14 people in 2 days? Suddenly, Arthur's pupils froze as he noticed something. A pair of glowing eyes in the darkness. Then Milo's body materialized in the darkness. Arthur's eyes widened, his mouth agape as he looked up. Without another thought, he jumped out of bed and ran frantically out of the room. The sound of his slippers slapping against the floor echoed down the empty corridor. A thought flashed through Arthur's mind. Why? How did he get into my room? He stopped, thinking deeply. I locked the door. From a corner of the corridor, Milo's face appeared again. He was startled and fell backward. His whole body was in a panic as he stammered. Before, he was in my room, near the lock. Don't come any closer. As soon as he finished speaking, Arthur jumped up and ran away. Outside the window, raindrops slid down the glass. At that moment, inside the restroom, in one of the stalls, the toilet paper was torn to shreds. Arthur cowered in the stall, clutching his head. A moment. I just need to calm down for a moment. Suddenly, his face froze as he heard a noise. A figure was entering, approaching his stall. He tilted his head slightly, peering through the gap at the bottom of the door. After a moment, the figure remained still, neither moving nor speaking. His face was tense with worry. He's right outside the door. Damn it, why am I so scared? I'm a member of the Sterling family. He clenched his trembling hand, trying to calm himself. I'll do it. I can definitely do it. Arthur kicked the door open, shouting, Take this. But he only saw an empty space in front of him and muttered, There's nothing. A chill ran down his spine. He stood frozen like a statue. Arthur slowly tilted his head, his eyes shifting slightly to look behind him. And then his eyes widened as he saw Milo standing behind him. A terrified scream echoed through the arena. His face was pale, filled with extreme doubt. What kind of creature is he? He remembered the image of him suddenly appearing in his bedroom. Sweat poured down his forehead like rain. He got into my room from who knows where, and he keeps appearing in front of me no matter where I run. Milo's voice was cold. How could you possibly beat me at this game of assassination? Arthur collapsed to the floor, his mind in turmoil. How is this possible? From above, Milo looked down and spoke. It seems you still don't understand. So let me tell you a secret. He waved his hand and explained. Invisibility spell, camouflage spell, concealment spell, perception inhibition spell. Milo's voice was steady. And shape-shifting concealment spell. I used 10 types of stealth magic. Arthur could only tremble in silence. This is just a reuse of the bone shadow technique. Every word he spoke was clear. The bone shadow technique. Only 10 people in the world know how to use it. It's a type of ultimate concealment technique. He tried to swallow the fear rising in his throat, and he recreated it with magic. Milo's voice became as sharp as a knife, stabbing straight at his opponent. If you dare lay a finger on me, my family will. You used these despicable tricks on me. Hearing these words, his entire body froze. But now you can't make any more excuses. He was decisive, his cold eyes scanning him. What an eyesore. Get out of the hall of 100 battles immediately. Arthur's pupils constricted as if being squeezed. He couldn't believe it, worrying silently. This is bad. Looking into Milo's eyes, he could only remain silent. This guy's eyes are saying that even if I run to the ends of the earth. Arthur clenched his fists, bowing his head to the floor, his whole body trembling. He would still be able to kill me at any time. White clouds drifted across the clear blue sky. A gentle sunbeam shone through the window. The hall of 100 battles was quiet. In the office, Aaron sat at his desk and quietly unrolled a scroll. As he read, he thought to himself, the exams are over and the teams have been assembled. Today, I'll conduct the next test. His eyes stopped on a page with a face crossed out in red. Arthur has left the hall of 100 battles. Arthur Sterling, defeated, quietly left the hall of 100 battles. Aaron placed 2 pictures on the table, Milo and Evans. Now, only 2 candidates remain for the title of God of War. His eyes suddenly lit up. Aaron looked at the first picture. Let's see. Wilson Milo. Then he glanced at the paper next to it. Then he glanced at the picture next to it. His lips pursed. Who will win? Maxi Milan Evans. In the suburbs, a grand two-story mansion. The Wilson family estate. Olivia Wilson stood silently before the door. She crossed her arms behind her back, gazing into the distance. I wonder how Milo is doing. The memory was still fresh, the old man's calm voice echoing in her head. He's just an extraordinary, special clown. Hearing that, Olivia felt a sense of peace. The god of war said so. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. She said, "Come in." The door slowly opened. The butler bowed and entered, saying, "My lady, there is news. The young man we sent to the exam." She raised an eyebrow, her eyes lighting up with curiosity. Is the most likely candidate to become the next god of war. This is the information I just received. He paused for a beat and continued. At the same time, we also received a tea party invitation from the Evan family. A smile appeared on Olivia's lips as she thought, the most likely to become the god of war? He truly is a talent. Another place. In a garden filled with vibrant red roses. The Evan family estate, the Rose Garden. A woman with white-blue hair held a fan. Rose Evan, mother of Maxi Milan Evans. Opposite her was a woman with sad eyes. Miranda Sterling, mother of Arthur Sterling. Her lips were tightly pursed, a little anxious. Olivia Wilson, the representative of the Wilson family. Under a gazebo in the middle of the garden, Rose's elegant voice spoke. First of all, despite the short notice, I want to express my gratitude to you all. Miranda gently covered her mouth and said softly, "It's no problem. After all, the title of God of War will come from one of our three families. So it's only natural that the high-ranking representatives of the other two families would want to build a closer relationship." However, she paused for a beat, her sharp eyes scanning Olivia sitting opposite her. Miranda's voice carried a hint of sarcasm. Because their family couldn't produce a male heir, they decided to adopt one in a sour and cunning way. Her face darkened, her tone becoming more bitter. And now, someone who was a slave not long ago is chosen as one of the candidates. How unbelievable. Hearing this, Olivia calmly spoke. What are you implying? Miranda curled her lip into a faint smile and replied, Are you offended? I'm just thinking of the possibilities. She gently stroked her cheek, her expression half smiling, half mocking. Assuming you seduced his master, it's not too unreasonable, is it? She pursed her lips tightly, trying to suppress the anger rising within her. Just then, a breeze swept through, causing the rose petals in the garden to dance vibrantly. Under the gazebo, the atmosphere became silent. Rose gently fanned herself, her voice soft but powerful. However, it is an undeniable fact that young Milo has come this far. We should stop being curious about other people's affairs here. She covered her mouth and giggled. You're right. My apologies. Miranda picked up her teacup and took a sip to hide her thoughts. Well, whatever. I wasn't interested in him from the beginning anyway. She placed the teacup back on the table. Her eyes were quiet. Miranda's gaze rested on the teacup, her thoughts suddenly deepening. The Sterling family built its fortune on assassination. Now it all depends on Arthur. He should easily be able to defeat Maxi Milan. Suddenly, the butler's voice came from behind. Lady Miranda. He approached, bowed slightly, and whispered a few words in her ear. As soon as she heard them, her face hardened as she exclaimed. Miranda clenched the teacup, her other hand covering her mouth in extreme shock. Arthur participated in the exam, but was eliminated. Seeing her slumped over the table, Rose quickly stood up and asked, What's wrong, Lady Miranda? Miranda slowly stood up, her voice trembling. Suddenly, I have an urgent matter to attend to. Please excuse me. She walked away hastily. Rose could only watch her retreating figure with a suspicious look. Rose lowered her eyes, her voice full of hidden meaning. It seems, she slowly continued, the candidates for the title of God of War have been reduced to two. She gently held her fan and continued. Although the Sterling family's hands are stained with blood, the way she treated Lady Olivia was unforgivable. Her eyes sparkled, but also held a note of caution. I hope that from now on, our two families will compete fairly. She was silent for a moment, then replied, I agree. She placed both hands on the table, her body leaning forward slightly. My son, Maxi Milan, already sees Milo as an equal opponent. A drop of sweat rolled down her cheek as she asked, confused. In another corner of the vast mansion, In a simply decorated room, Evans sat on the bed. He raised both hands to tie back his long hair neatly. In Rose's mind, the image of Evans was crystal clear. In the dictionary of our Evan family, the word defeat has never existed. But Maxi Milan, he's not just aiming for the title of God of War. The air seemed to freeze as she lowered her voice. The title of hero has already been bestowed upon him. Under the gazebo, a gentle breeze carried the scent of roses. A soft voice was heard. Hero. Olivia's cheeks were slightly flushed as she asked curiously. This is the first time I've heard of it. But it's still better than the title of God of War, isn't it? Rose's eyes flickered as she hesitated in her reply. This was supposed to be kept a secret, but it doesn't really matter. She closed her eyes briefly, as if trying to hold back a memory. Rose's voice dropped, slightly choked with emotion as she recounted. We humans have a common enemy. The demons. Every 10 years, the Allied forces gather to destroy them. The image of monsters with blood-red eyes and bloodthirsty forms appeared. She continued, people live in fear every day because of them, and cannot deal with them on their own. Olivia frowned slightly, her voice skeptical. But, I heard there has been a stalemate for a century. Rose opened her eyes, her gaze sharp. That's right. But 3 years ago, she slowly recounted, God sent a divine message about a breakthrough, through a prophet's dream. Rose's voice was filled with both hope and fear. A protector of humanity, one who possesses overwhelming power. Her gaze shifted to the distance, her voice certain. In other words, a hero will appear. Olivia was shaken. And that person is from the Evan family. She shook her head in disbelief, muttering, Is it Maxi Milan? Rose nodded without a hint of doubt. Exactly. Maxi Milan does not know the concept of failure. The atmosphere under the gazebo grew heavy, each person lost in their own thoughts. From above, a grand scene unfolded. The Hall of 100 Warriors. Aaron stood in the middle of the courtyard and said loudly, All right, everyone gather around. This is about the 4th exam. Milo's face was determined, as if he had been ready for a long time. Evan's face was as cold as ice, emotionless. He lowered his voice for a beat and continued, The theme is. At this, Aaron smiled with amusement and announced, Dungeon Conquest Strategy. Below was a giant, circular maze. A dungeon created specifically for the Hall of 100 Warriors. The labyrinth. Deformed, hideous monsters. It has terrifying monsters. Sharp weapons of all kinds, and challenges with traps, as if from hell. A monster holding a flail, its body like a mountain, with 2 long, curved horns on its head. After all that, deep within the dungeon is a minotaur. The first team to defeat it will win. People gathered one by one in front of the dungeon entrance. Aaron stood by the door with his arms crossed. But I'm quite surprised. I didn't think Milo was the type to form a team. His eyes rested on Milo as he thought. And yet he managed to pull Jasper to his side and even recruit his subordinates. He looked at the group of warriors standing behind him and silently acknowledged. Their team is now the strongest in the Hall of 100 Warriors. Aaron tilted his head to look at Evans. As for the other side, he put his hands on his hips and called out, Maxi Milan, why are you going alone? He tilted his head and replied nonchalantly, Is there a problem? He quickly walked towards Evans and said, Do you understand how this exam works? This is a test of leadership ability. You were supposed to form and lead a team, you know. Evans waved his hand and explained, Of course I have about 5 people on my team, but I will be taking the dungeon exam alone. So I asked my team members. He paused for a beat and continued, to voluntarily withdraw from the exam. But that's against the exam rules, isn't it? He asked, confused, Why do you want to go alone? Aaron stood frozen, as if struck by lightning. Evan's voice was cold. I don't like people crowding around me. It's as simple as that. Aaron's mouth moved, but no words came out as he sighed internally. This guy is such a handful. Not far away, Milo overheard the entire conversation. Evan's words repeated in Milo's mind. He doesn't like people crowding around him. A memory suddenly surfaced. Valentine. Iris. He crossed his arms and squinted, asking, Do you want to have a one-on-one fight? Valentine stood opposite him and said, There is a hero and a demon king. Opposite him, Valentina stood proudly like a warrior and replied, We will choose the strongest for our teams. But after that, we can fight each other as much as we want. It's simple. I like it that way. Iris's eyes flickered when he heard those words. She paused for a moment, her voice low but warm. Is there anyone you want? The two of them just stood there, looking at each other. Only the sound of the wind rustling through the green leaves remained, carrying the echo of unfinished ambitions. Back in the present, Milo's cheeks flushed slightly. He looked up at Evans and thought, this exam. I thought it would be full of boring people. But Milo's eyes held a spark of interest. There are some interesting people too. Next, before the competition begins, Aaron crossed his arms and announced clearly, 4 teams will compete this time. The exam will begin as soon as the countdown ends. The examiners will accompany you. They will be scoring you throughout the process. Suddenly, there were whispers. He asked loudly, what is it? Is there a problem? Milo, at the front of the line, spoke up. This dungeon looks complicated. He paused for a moment, his voice slightly doubtful. Are there any conditions for passing? His eyes became stern as he replied. You will have to put your lives on the line in this challenge. If things go bad, let's just say the useless ones won't survive. Aaron looked straight at him, his voice heavy. You need to learn how to be a leader, and also how to bear the responsibilities of a leader. In that moment, Milo's eyes flashed as he replied, I understand. He curled his lips slightly into a confident smile, a smile mixed with a desire to conquer and a bit of recklessness. In other words, I can do whatever I want. Behind him, Jasper whispered excitedly, all right, it's time. This is great. He whispered, his voice humming. The first exam will begin right now. Finally, Jasper turned to look at Milo and saw him searching for something on the instruction sheet. He held his sword and looked around, muttering, it must be around here. The blade glowed with a blue light, rings of energy swirling around the steel as if alive. His eyes scanned the maze, searching for something hidden. He hesitated and said, Lord Milo, are you? Before he could finish, he had already thrust his sword into the wall in front of them. Aaron and Jasper were both dumbfounded, staring at each other. An explosion rang out, and dust and smoke filled the air. He turned to Aaron, who was standing beside him, his voice trembling. What? Instructor Aaron, is the wall of this dungeon this easy to destroy? He was completely surprised by the scene. No, it's not. It's built as sturdy as orichalcum. The dust gradually settled, revealing Milo standing in front of a deep dent in the wall. Jasper was still in shock, stammering, as expected of you, Lord Milo. But, wait a minute. He suddenly froze, as if sensing something unusual. Impossible. But Milo didn't let anyone react. He thrust his sword again. Another large hole appeared, layers of stone cracking and falling. Immediately after, he tightened his grip on the sword's hilt and continued. We should go straight through. The tip of the sword thrust forward, the impact echoing like thunder. From above, a streak of light shone through a crack, illuminating the spot that had just been pierced. Milo's face lit up with pure excitement. That's the fastest way to the destination. He looked at the large hole in the wall and said, and it's efficient too. Witnessing this scene, both Aaron and Jasper were dumbfounded, too shocked to speak. The giant circular maze appeared. The 4th exam, Dungeon Maze Strategy. In the heart of the maze, grotesque, misshapen monsters with full violent skills and filled with traps. A sharp spiked ball suddenly fell like a death trap from hell. In another basement level, dozens of sharp spears awaited the careless. In the deepest center, a monster held an axe, its body enormous. The team that defeats the Minotaur in the deepest level of the dungeon will get the highest score. Suddenly, a deafening roar echoed. The man with the braided ponytail was startled and said, I know Lord Jasper wants to follow him, but he's really very talented. Milo stood amidst the dust and smoke, holding his sword, his eyes calm. Without hesitation, he swung his sword, splitting the wall in front of him. I can't believe he can even break the dungeon walls. Jasper smiled with pride. As expected of Lord Milo. Milo walked on and said, at this rate, we can score faster. Aaron couldn't help but shout in amazement. Forget all that. This will definitely be a new record. Meanwhile, in another corner of the maze, Evans stood before a wall. No fancy tricks needed. He just pointed his index finger at the wall in front of him. Then, he closed his eyes briefly. When Evans' eyes opened, along with a single word, shatter, instantly, a crack appeared from the point where his finger touched. Then it slowly spread like a spiderweb, eating deep into the steel-like wall. A person stood there, his eyes wide with astonishment. What was that? The man stared, his mind in turmoil. I've been a coach for the martial arts team for over 20 years, but I've never seen a candidate like him. The dungeon wall, which was supposed to be impenetrable, it shattered into a large hole. The dungeon wall, is he really going to destroy them? Before he could even process it, he stammered as if he had been struck. What the hell did you do? Evans didn't turn around, only leaving his back as he spoke. Everything has a breaking point. His voice continued slowly. For living creatures, it's a weak point. If it's broken, they lose their lives. It's the key point that holds everything together. Evans remained calm, as if nothing had happened. But breaking them is very simple. He crossed his arms and spoke. If you're talented enough to break the dungeon walls, then finding a way to conquer this dungeon will be easy for you. He looked around and replied, I've always been the best. This exam will be no different. The man stood silently, thinking, he's already one of the best. Is he aiming for an even higher position? The more he looked, the more certain he became. He is worthy of the name Evans. As a courtier of this kingdom. Above the maze, 2 holes, one large and one small, appeared. Evans stopped, looked ahead, and said, according to the map, the Minotaur is on the other side of this wall. As soon as he finished speaking, he placed his index finger lightly on the wall's surface. A crack spread from his finger. Seeing this, the man thought, people like this, do they really exist? A loud crash echoed as the wall shattered into large blocks. Behind the wall was the Minotaur. His eyes were still calm as he looked at it. But the man stood frozen, his face bewildered. But the Minotaur suddenly collapsed, its body falling on the pile of broken bricks. He stared, confused. This is, seeing its wide, unblinking eyes as it lay unconscious, he thought in surprise, the Minotaur. He frowned and exclaimed, what the hell? From behind the ruined wall, Milo's figure gradually appeared. He slung his sword over his shoulder, a casual posture that exuded the confidence of a winner. Evans watched him silently, without resentment or fear. Milo's face lit up with a confident smile. Too bad. You were just one step away from victory. Hearing this, his eyes began to waver. His eyes met Evans. They both understood. Always at the top in life, he was once the genius everyone had high hopes for. Maxi Milan had been praised his whole life for it. Everyone thought it was only a matter of time before he became the new god of war. He was shocked to hear those words. But now, all that praise was being directed at Milo. The way people looked at him now was like looking at a monster. Those same eyes used to be directed at Maxi Milan. Evans pursed his lips, his eyes never leaving him. For the first time in his life, Maxi Milan was facing. And Milo, too, did not take his eyes off his opponent. An existence on par with himself. Night fell on the brightly lit, ancient mansion. The Evan family. Rose and Olivia were having dinner together. The space was quiet, with only the sound of forks scraping against knives. Suddenly, the sound of a door opening gently was heard. The butler entered, holding a scroll. My lady, it seems the results of the maze strategy exam are in. She put down her fork and ordered, just say it. Is it all right with an outsider present? Rose looked at the butler and said, it's fine. She'll find out eventually anyway. He immediately replied, I understand. She chewed her food, thinking, this is truly an amazing coincidence. She was certain that Maxi Milan would be first. The butler opened the paper and began to read aloud. Maxi Milan passed the maze with unimaginable speed. His voice continued to resonate. He broke through each dungeon wall to reach the destination by the shortest route. He completely shattered all previous records. Rose clapped her hands gently, her eyes radiant. How wonderful! As expected of Maxi Milan. Hearing this, Olivia pursed her lips, a little worried. Breaking the dungeon walls. He's the real monster. Suddenly, the butler's voice faltered. However, he only ranked second in the exam. Olivia's ears perked up when she heard. A young man named Milo took the #1 spot. He is the representative of the Wilson family. The napkin in Rose's hand was squeezed so tightly that the veins on her hand stood out. She bowed her head, saying nothing for a few short seconds that felt like a lifetime. Suddenly, Rose looked up and jumped to her feet, her eyes wide as if to pierce through the room, and shouted, What did you say? A loud slam on the table echoed. Rose's face was furious, her hands clenched, sweat beading on her face. Maxi Milan came in second? Impossible. With a furious look, she suddenly realized something. There must be some mistake. Olivia watched from a distance. Maxi Milan's mother still couldn't believe it was true. She still asked doubtfully, is this true? What a pity. She gradually remembered. I only adopted Milo so he could participate in the exam. I didn't even care if he dropped out halfway. The young man was unimpressive. But Milo always exceeded all expectations. In every battle, his blows exploded with power, carrying a flame. She felt happy. Milo, just how far are you planning to go? She sat there, in the dim light, her mind spinning with thoughts. The result is clear. I'll have to cancel his slave contract. With this achievement, restoring his mother's honor won't be difficult. The gossip of others pulled her back. She was worried that people would misunderstand. Sitting at the dining table, she was still thinking, her mind in turmoil. A voice cut through her thoughts. Just because the family has no son doesn't mean the Wilson family can bring a slave in as a relative. Her face darkened as she growled. Maxi Milan, no. She looked at me with an all-knowing expression. Don't think you've defeated the Evan family. Maxi Milan's mother's loud voice drowned out her thoughts. This May's strategy can't prove that child's true worth. She looked up, staring straight at her. Her gaze was not just one of listening, but also of a determination not to be subdued. It must be just a coincidence. A soldier is still a soldier. Don't start dreaming. As soon as her words ended, she replied without hesitation. Me too. She replied. At first, Milo's strength. I couldn't believe it. Olivia closed her eyes briefly, the image of him clenching his sword hilt, standing straight, etched in her mind. She exclaimed, his rapid progress is not luck or coincidence. Now I can say with certainty. She still sat there, silent and cold. She took a step forward, looking straight into the eyes that had once silenced her, her clear, strong voice cutting through the air. If it's Milo, he can even surpass Maxi Milan. Maxi Milan's mother sighed softly. The chair scraped as it was pulled back. She slowly stood up. Now I have no interest anymore. Could you please leave? She was surprised. What? Olivia frowned, thinking, she was the one who invited me. How rude. She walked out to the waiting carriage. She still couldn't shake the strange feeling. Maxi Milan's mother watched her retreating back from above. She still couldn't believe her eyes. In her heart, I never thought Maxi Milan would lose. It's better to be cautious. Maxi Milan's mother called someone in. You know what to do, right? The subordinate replied respectfully. Of course. I have already started to intervene. She gave a cunning smile at her plan. Excellent. That's the best answer. Night fell, and the city grew quieter. Yellow lights flickered. Darkness gradually retreated, and a faint light spread from the horizon. In a room, many people sat at a table talking. Now then, Aaron slapped his hand on the board. What happens next will depend on Milo and Maxi Milan. Then he turned to the group and said loudly, the Shikigami exam will be a showdown between the two of them. Both have been trained and tested using special methods. His eyes blazed. If they train even harder. The image of a masked figure holding a sword, filled with killing intent. The strongest Shikigami will soon be born. The two people next to him heard this and were frightened. Aaron smiled smugly. To witness this moment makes me proud as a warrior. A voice echoed from a distance. Please wait. We're in a meeting. The room door slowly opened. Don't nitpick every little thing. His cane hit the ground, stomping on the floor. Without needing to be told, everyone knew this was not an ordinary person. Who do you think I am? He looked at the old man. Why have you come here? Elder Walter, an elder of the Evan family, one of the 3 great families. Walter Cross. His face was stern as he leaned on his cane. I've heard a rumor that there is someone with skills on par with Maxi Milan. Aaron turned to look at the old man. So I came here to make a request. He then concluded, I want those 2 to fight. Whoever becomes the Shikigami should be decided sooner rather than later. He heard this and couldn't remain calm. What? Please wait. Aaron spoke clearly. To determine the winner, they need to undergo more tests and training. The entire room fell silent. Doing this before the Shikigami exam is strictly forbidden. Even if it's a request from an elder, I can't do it. The old man just smiled lightly. Young man, do you know how real power works in this world? This is how the Evan family handles things, with the 3 elders and the 4 great sword emperors. Cross looked at them. If all 7 of us agree, then even the Shikigami exam can be changed. The words ran through his mind. This old man, is he trying to bring politics into the exam? The old man continued relentlessly. The other 6 have already approved, so this will proceed. A loud stomp on the ground echoed through the silent room. The old man growled. In other words, this is an order, not a request. Aaron gritted his teeth in anger, looking at Cross. The old man turned his back and whispered softly, "Don't feel bad, young man." He clenched his fists, staring. An unknown person I've never even heard of will never be chosen as the Shikigami. At the end of the day, night fell. Aaron stood in front of the door, as if waiting for someone. A figure with crossed arms, after hearing his story, spoke. So, well then. Milo's face was like ice. When is the match? Aaron replied. In the afternoon, 3 days from now. The next Shikigami will be decided based on the winner and loser. Aaron bowed his head, his voice choked with emotion. I'm sorry. I should have spent more time training you. He turned away coldly. I've done everything I can at the Hall of 100 battles. That's more than enough. He looked at Milo and smiled faintly. You're always so confident. But that's just who you are. Are you really okay? Then he looked back and emphasized, just watch me. This Shikigami selection will be over soon. The magnificent castle before them was the venue for the God of War candidates' final match day. Inside the castle was a room called the contestants' waiting room. Aaron looked down at Milo, instructing him on what he should do in today's match. You're only allowed to use wooden weapons to fight. Anyone who surrenders or loses the ability to fight will be declared the loser. Those are the rules for today's match. Any more questions? Milo stood up, as if he had something to say. I have something to say. Milo expressed his intention to shake hands with Aaron and confessed. Instructor Aaron, you've taken great care of me during this time. Milo extended his hand. Thank you. Hearing the thanks from Milo's mouth, Aaron smiled, his eyes looking like they were about to cry. Then Aaron also extended his hand to shake Milo's, affirming, I will definitely wish you luck. He walked down the castle corridor, his footsteps slowing down. Suddenly, he stopped moving altogether in the corridor. Milo stood there, lost in thought for a long time, as if he had discovered something. Milo didn't even need to turn around to guess who was standing behind him. An elder of the Evan family, one of the 3 great families. What are you doing here? The elder of the Evan family laughed loudly, seemingly pleased. I don't recall introducing myself as such. Milo said nothing, but his eyes held a hint of sadness. Milo turned slightly and said sarcastically, even if you don't say it, I can tell. The elder, leaning on his cane with both hands, looked annoyed, emitting a dark, powerful aura that Milo easily detected. I can tell you're the one with the strong killing intent. Milo, with an expressionless face, thought to himself, the Evan family is one of the 3 great families with grand elders. Aaron told me. In Milo's mind, he recalled the image of the examiner from the first God of War trial, and thought to himself, they may be martial arts geniuses, but the first God of War had the air of a sorcerer, completely opposite to him. Milo turned to face the elder of the Evan family directly, and at that moment, many monsters appeared around them. This presence. Cross looked at Milo, considering for a moment, then judged, just like a demon. You and Maxi Milan will fight, so I came to see what kind of person you are. The old man assumed Milo, and he were the same. You smell like me. Hearing this, Milo immediately refuted what he had just said. I don't have time for your nonsense. Do you need my help with anything else? With dangerous eyes, but wanting to ask a favor from Milo. Nothing much. I just want to ask a small favor. The elder of the Evan family maintained his attitude and made his request. In this match, Milo, can you let Maxi Milan win? Milo couldn't believe what he was hearing. What did you say? He even offered a condition. Of course, if you lose, we will pay you a worthy price. The old man, with a deceitful face, used the Wilson family as a bargaining chip. The entire Wilson family, including you, will be guaranteed safety for the rest of your lives. Not a bad offer, right? Cross used the Wilson family to threaten him, so he relented a little. I see. So that's how today's match will be. Milo bowed his head, not revealing his expression. Then, Milo raised his head with a determined face and retorted, "What do you think I would say? I'm not like you. I'm not so corrupt as to compromise for personal gain." The disciple standing next to Old Cross, hearing those words, shouted angrily, "This brat." He questioned him, "How dare you be so rude to Lord Walter?" But contrary to his anger, Cross laughed loudly. "Excellent." Cross brought up his past to mock him. "A slave like you, managing to crawl up to a position so close to the god of war. That's why you dare to act so foolishly." Cross's smile now stretched from ear to ear as he stated with certainty, "That pride of his, Maxi Milan will crush it to pieces." But Milo didn't care and just walked on silently. But the old man was still very smug. "I can't wait." A member of the organizing committee came up to him and called out, "Wilson Milo, are you ready?" Milo's face was full of confidence as he smiled to himself. "Very ready." The door opened, and Milo walked straight out. The sky today was very clear. The organizer's announcement rang out. Only the winning candidate can enter the arena. In the stands, Jasper and Olivia sat above, watching the match. Below, in the arena, was the clash between Evans and Milo. They stared at each other intently. Evans spoke first, breaking the silence. "Want to talk a bit before we fight?" "Milo, I don't mind." Evans recounted his growth process to Milo, a process from birth through days of relentless training. "I was born to be the god of war. I was raised to be a king. And I have trained for that reason. Stronger today than yesterday, stronger tomorrow than today. I swung my sword every day, and before I knew it, during that training process, Evans had defeated countless people. No one could match me anymore. I had reached the pinnacle of martial arts." But then the last thing he said was, "But I'm afraid." Evans raised his hand, looking up at the clear blue sky. "In the not-so-distant future, there may be a new god of war who surpasses me." His hand opened listlessly as Evans affirmed, "I dedicated my entire life to martial arts. I became someone no one could match, no one could touch." Evans clenched his fist with determination, but then questioned himself. "I unleash my full power even if my opponent is unworthy. But what is the reason I hold a sword?" He recounted the past months. Milo just listened quietly with a serious face. "I always tried my best to defeat my opponents, to survive in this world." Evans placed his hand on his sword and slowly drew it. "A great power." Milo looked at him with a sharp gaze. "I want to prove it to you." Seeing the power radiating around Evans, the people in the stands were all in awe. Amazing. So amazing. The overwhelming, fierce presence. "He's completely different from us." Two people in the stands were discussing, unaware that Rose was sitting behind them, hearing everything they said. The 10 Great Sword Kings? No, he might even be on par with the 4 Great Sword Emperors. Rose heard what the two of them said and was delighted, a smile on her face. "The 4 Great Sword Emperors? My boy is much better than them." Evan's face was full of confidence. He bowed his head, his eyes a little sad as he blamed Milo. "This may just be a test, but you stole my first place." Evans was eager to regain his former form. "I'm really looking forward to it, Milo." Hearing him say that, Milo didn't speak, just listened quietly. Evans slowly drew his sword, preparing to strike, not forgetting to mock Milo. "Don't give up after just one blow." Evans' eyes suddenly widened as he guessed. He's choosing to move slowly? Is he trying to lure me in? Seeing Milo's movement, Evans silently judged, "No, that's wrong. He can't keep up with my speed." Evans looked with sharp eyes. "Milo, I had hoped you would be my equal." Evans jumped up, intending to slash at Milo in front of him, but seeing him not move, he sneered to himself. "I really hoped so. But, you're pathetic." The eyes of both of them flashed with sharpness, each with their own thoughts. Evans used his power to strike straight at Milo's position, which immediately filled with smoke. Olivia, sitting above, also felt that power. She raised her hand to shield herself. On this side, he just smiled calmly and watched the scene. In the arena now, only Evans remained. Milo was nowhere to be seen, and the arena was filled with smoke. Evans, with a confident face, thought to himself, "And he calls himself a king." From within the smoke, a voice rose. Evans immediately pointed his sword towards the source of the voice. "I didn't expect you to be like this." Milo's 2 fingers clamped down on the sword pointed at him. Milo laughed, mocking Evans. "Is this all your strength? Really?" Seeing Milo emerge unscathed, Evan's eyes widened in apparent surprise. From within the smoke, a light cough was heard. Evans closed his eyes tightly, a smile on his face. Evans now seemed like a completely different person. His eyes widened, and the veins on his face began to bulge. "Don't you get cocky. You're just a failure too." Evans immediately stepped back. Milo and Evans looked at each other, as if they could attack at any moment. The dust and smoke gradually cleared, and the two of them were still in the arena. Evans gathered his power and chanted, "Divine Fighting Spirit, full release, full enhancement of all physical abilities." His face now exuded a dangerous anger. Seeing this image of Evans, Milo thought to himself, this is his true form. Evans charged forward like a flash of lightning. Seeing his power, Milo silently guessed, "And all of my power." Evans slashed straight at his face, but he quickly dodged it. Then came a series of continuous attacks from Evans, but Milo managed to dodge them all. The sword in Evans' hand thrust straight at Milo, and he nimbly dodged it. Aaron, sitting in the stands watching the two fight, couldn't help but exclaim, "Amazing." Aaron, with a proud expression, praised Milo. "Milo, he's narrowly dodging all the attacks." Evans prepared to charge again. He used all his strength to continue slashing at Milo, but Milo nimbly stepped back to dodge the blow. In his heart, Milo also acknowledged Evans. "Maxi Milan, you are very strong. That's a fact." Gradually, Milo remembered when he first arrived here. "When I first came to the Hall of 100 Battles, I struggled so much." Milo jumped high, spinning, aiming straight for Evans. Evans also realized his intention but couldn't dodge in time and was kicked squarely in the body by Milo. Milo's kick sent Evans staggering backward. Evans supported himself on the ground, his face angry as he cursed, "Damn it." Seeing his own kick, Milo also thought to himself, "My fighting ability has increased significantly." A person was walking quickly towards him, calling his name. Maxi Evans. Hearing his name, Evans immediately turned to look. It was his mother, Rose, who was worried about her son and had rushed to his side. "Are you okay, Maxi-chan?" The two guards outside immediately tried to stop her from getting close to the fighting area. "Rose-sama, please don't do that." Evans heard the name she called him and immediately showed his displeasure. "That nickname? Mother, don't call me that in public." Rose, with a worried face, looked at her son. "I'm sorry. I was just so worried." "Don't worry, mother." Evans had now regained his earlier confidence. "Because I'm going to pay him back for everything right now." Evans approached and stood opposite Milo. Evans placed his sword in both hands, seemingly preparing for a new technique. "I was going to save this move for a warrior-level opponent, but it seems I have to use it here." Milo stared at Evans, who was accumulating power, his hands gripping the sword tightly as he shouted. Seeing the technique Evans was performing, Milo thought to himself, his fighting spirit has changed again. But then all of Evans' power vanished. It seemed to split into multiple people, causing him to lower his face gloomily. The scene before Milo made him widen his eyes in disbelief. "What is this?" Evans had now stood up, beginning to disperse, but then another Evans was kneeling on the ground. Evans had now created 3 more clones. This was the technique, Divine Power, Mirage Image Technique. Milo remembered someone else using this technique. "This is Valentine's technique." Milo asked himself, there's only one person in this world brave enough to use that technique. How can he do it? Evans was now very smug, a smile on his face. "How about it? Now there are 4 of me. This technique is amazing, isn't it?" He was full of self-praise. "I'm truly a genius. From 4 directions, we will attack you." Seeing 4 Evanses in front of him, Milo told himself, this is going to be difficult. He looked at them, seeming to have figured it out. "I see. So this is your trump card." Milo remained calm and stated, "If I hit the original body, the technique will be dispelled." Evans raised his sword with a smug expression. Easier said than done. The 4 Evanses charged at the same time. "Can you withstand it until then?" Milo nimbly dodged their attacks, but Evans couldn't help but mock him. "What's wrong, Milo? You have to fight back." Seeing Milo only dodging and not attacking, he smugly continued to taunt him. "Can you only dodge?" Evans' taunts had no effect on Milo. It seems he didn't notice at all. Milo faced 4 opponents alone, but he didn't know he had fallen into a trap. "He sees 4 of me, but they are all just decoys." Suddenly, An invisible body approached from behind Milo. The original body. The invisible Evans had gotten close behind Milo, a voice echoing in his mind. Is right here. In fact, the technique Evans used was the mirage image technique. The true meaning of this technique is to create decoy bodies. Evans held his sword firmly and raised it high. By using optical camouflage, the original body becomes invisible. Evans' face showed his excitement as he got into a ready stance. Then deliver a fatal blow to the back of the opponent's head. I'll give you a taste. Evans laughed loudly, thinking, you've lost, Milo. But suddenly, Milo swung his arm back, hitting Evans right in the face as he was about to attack him. Evans' face turned red from Milo's blow, while Milo maintained his cold expression. Evans immediately fell to the ground. His 4 clones slowly disappeared. Milo looked at the fallen Evans and explained, if you concentrate enough, this trick is useless. The original body may be invisible, but the sound of footsteps is not. Milo remembered the words Valentina had told him before. The mirage image technique is useless against strong opponents. It's just a childish magic trick. Like Valentina, I realized it. Evans was now on the ground. Milo. Evans slowly stood up, but his face was not clearly visible at this moment. Milo's blow had caused Evans to scream in pain. Evans shouted in disbelief amidst the white smoke. Impossible. He gritted his teeth in defiance. How could you see through my technique? Milo's eyes narrowed as he spoke seriously. Sorry, but I already knew that. He asked, puzzled. But how were you able to use that technique? Evans knelt down, his posture defiant. I'll tell you. He tightened his grip on his sword and charged at Milo. If you can defeat me. He nimbly dodged the attack. Milo jumped high into the air just before the sword came down. He raised his leg, aiming straight for Evans. Milo decisively kicked him. Evans blocked the powerful blow. He swung his sword behind Milo's back. Not yet. He calmly grabbed Evans' arm. Then Milo threw him straight into the nearby wall. Evans was stunned as his whole body slammed into the wall. He closed his eyes and lay on the ground in pain. Crossford sat pensively in the stands, watching the match. He rested his chin on his hand, assessing the situation. He's reached his limit. There's no way Maxi Milan can win this match now. Crossford quickly called the person next to him. The person immediately responded. The old man whispered something into the man's ear. Do as I say. Evans knelt exhausted on the arena floor. His face was covered in sweat. Maxi Milan, I can't believe I've failed like this. Milo looked at him and spoke in a low voice. Maxi Milan, you probably already knew this. He raised his hand and affirmed, but I am stronger than you. Milo took a step towards Evans. It's time. He frowned defensively. Milo's eyes narrowed as he stated firmly, to decide the winner. The silver-haired man in the corner raised 2 fingers and chanted a spell. The more he chanted, the more black hands grew from the ground below. Milo was unaware that they were all charging towards him. He opened his eyes wide, sensing something was wrong. Milo's hand froze, his heart filled with confusion. What is this? His whole body felt fixed in place. I can't move. How is this possible? Milo looked down at the black magic hands at his feet. That's evil shadow magic. Shadow control technique. He was held fast in place. It's a technique that uses shadows to control movement. Ford watched intently from above. He laughed heartily, thinking, now Maxi Milan will win. Crossford smugly raised 3 fingers. So what if you're not a slave anymore? You still can't change the history of the Evans. Evans silently observed Milo. He looked at Milo standing still and wondered, what's happening? Milo is. He bowed his head, his eyes half closed, his tone contemptuous. How pathetic. Evans' face contorted with anger. He gritted his teeth and retorted, did you just call me pathetic? Evans shouted in frustration. So what if I'm pathetic? I tried my best, so what's wrong with that? He charged straight at Milo. Then he spoke slowly. You are strong. I admit that. But Milo's hand was covered in a stream of magic. This level of magic. He stood in a waiting stance as Evans charged. He thought. Milo raised his leg high. You think I can't break it? He slammed his foot down on the ground, sending Evans flying. He was shocked, struggling to stay on his feet. What? Milo closed in on Evans. Well then, just as you said, I will give it my all. He clenched his hand into a fist. What a pity. Evan's eyes widened. Milo punched him hard in the stomach. Evans screamed in extreme pain. He was defiant. Impossible. Evans fell helplessly to the ground. Rose's face was pale, her eyes wide as she heard the announcer's voice. Olivia was too stunned to speak. Aaron forced a smile as he heard the announcement. And the winner is... Milo rubbed his wrist, not noticing his name being called out. Milo Wilson. He glanced at the unconscious Evans, thinking, with this, I've achieved my goal. Milo felt a wave of killing intent coming towards him. He quickly turned around, not looking at Crossford, thinking, that's what I wanted to think. Milo stood motionless on the arena floor. He curled his lip in a victorious smile and turned towards the old man. But there's still more. Veins popped on his forehead as he gritted his teeth in anger. Many interesting things are about to happen. Milo wiped the blood from the corner of his lip. Evans looked at him struggling and spoke contemptuously. If I were you, I really thought you could be a worthy opponent. He tightened his grip on his sword and raised it high. Goodbye. Evans looked down at Milo and called out nonchalantly, Milo. Red liquid dripped from his body onto the ground. Evans was too stunned to speak. His stomach had been pierced by a large hole. Evans' face turned pale in disbelief. He stood frozen, unable to believe what had just happened. Evans screamed in pain. He lay in a hospital bed and suddenly opened his eyes. Evans sat up in a panic, muttering, this feeling is... The sunset shone on a mansion. His face showed clear contemplation. Evans sat on the bed, thinking, at that time. He remembered when Milo stomped his foot on the ground. Magic flowed from his body. Evans assessed his presence. Milo's aura changed suddenly. He guessed he must have enhanced his body with fighting spirit. He might have even used physical enhancement magic. Evans broke out in a sweat, wondering, but it wasn't just his body that was enhanced. How did he do that? Is that what really happened? He remembered Milo's punch. Right after that, he unleashed a series of punches to my stomach. Evans remembered each of his blows clearly. I remember it clearly. 3 punches. He stood up and walked. But Evans lifted his shirt. He stood in front of the mirror, looking at the wound on his stomach. At that moment, Evans' entire stomach was bruised. How many times did he actually hit me? He thought back to that time. And Milo didn't even draw his sword. Evans clenched his fists in frustration, as if he was saying his fists were enough. He closed his eyes briefly, thinking helplessly, I lost completely. There's no choice but to accept defeat. Rose ran in from outside. She called out worriedly, Maxi-chan. Rose's face showed her concern. You look like you're in a lot of pain. Evans turned and called out, Mother. She raised her hand and reminded him, you should rest more. He reassured her, I'm fine, Mother. Don't worry. Rose bit her nails in anger and growled. That Milo is definitely a monster in human skin. He must have cheated somehow. I can't believe Maxi lost. She turned to leave, her firm words echoing back. But don't worry. I will meet with Lord Walter again. I will win back the Shikigami title for you, Maxi-chan. Evan's eyes widened in shock. He was bewildered. Again? What do you mean, Mother? What are you planning to do? Evan's eyes were filled with thought. Don't tell me. He remembered Milo's sarcastic words. So this is your best effort? How pathetic. Evans remembered when he stood motionless on the arena floor. The uneasy feeling Milo had. It definitely wasn't like this. He asked hesitantly, Did you interfere in my match? Rose waved her hands in confusion. No, I didn't interfere. I just wanted to help you, Maxi-chan. Evans shouted angrily, Why? How shameful. He placed his hand on his chest and yelled, You cheated in the match. The Lord turned a blind eye. And on top of that, Evans' eyes widened in fury as he roared, I let you do it. The most despicable person is me. Rose was stunned, her eyes welling up with tears. She watched him leave in a panic. Maxi-chan, where are you going? Evans stopped and said firmly, I don't want to live in shame anymore. I'm leaving. Rose called out in a panic, Maxi-chan. She stood frozen in the silent hospital. The sky gradually darkened, and the houses in the neighborhood lit up. Milo strolled leisurely down the street. Crossford stood behind him and spoke. The successor to the Shikigami throne, all alone at this time of night. Evans frowned and turned around. The old man leaned on his cane, his voice arrogant. You're quite free, aren't you? He spoke coldly. Don't you think you should be avoiding the public eye? Cross laughed loudly. So you realized I was following you. He gave a sinister smile. And it seems you also know why I'm here. Milo remembered when he was on the arena floor, looking at Cross. After the Shikigami incident, I couldn't ignore your presence. The old man observed him with admiration. Young man, you've grown up. Milo clenched his fists and said bluntly, if you're here to kill me. Crossford showed a flash of surprise. He raised his hand, which was surrounded by magic, and asked, I'm ready to fight. Are you ready? Milo's voice was challenging. If you're here to kill me, are you ready for me to fight back? In the cold mist, his eyes burned with a determination that seemed to scorch the night. In response, Ford burst out laughing, the sound echoing down the street. You've got good spirit. The old man showed no fear and took another step forward. Let's begin. How arrogant. Crossford's voice was slow, as if every word was intended to provoke Milo. With just one command from me, that woman from the Wilson family will be on her knees. You know that, right? Faced with these sarcastic words, his eyes showed no sign of wavering. Milo replied without any respect, if you think you can do it, then go ahead and try. The old man was momentarily stunned. What? At that moment, he slowly raised his hand and growled. As long as I'm here, the Wilson family will never fall. After a long moment, Milo's hand revealed long, sharp claws. He uttered a threat. And if you dare to touch Olivia, you won't keep your life for long. Hearing this, he couldn't help but chuckle. After a brief shudder, he laughed loudly. Silence fell for a moment before Crossford growled. You think you have nothing to fear? His eyes glinted with murderous intent. Don't underestimate me. Cross didn't stop and continued to taunt him. You brat. After a while, the old man spoke slowly, his voice echoing down the street. I just want to kill you. But, as soon as the words were out, Ford suddenly drew his sword from its sheath. He smiled with a sinister expression. I can't let my sword get rusty. A thought flashed through Milo's mind. One of the 3 elders of the Evan family. I might have to use high-level magic. On this side, he immediately clenched his fist, his eyes fixed on Cross. Noticing Milo's gaze, the old man's expression suddenly froze. Immediately after, Ford quickly sheathed his blade. Witnessing this, he couldn't help but feel a little confused. What do you want to do? Suddenly, Cross laughed maniacally. I've changed my mind. At this, the old man slammed his cane on the ground, his words carrying a hidden meaning. I have a better idea. Milo's eyes flashed with caution. What? At that moment, Ford suddenly turned, his eyes glinting with malice. I won't kill you. The old man's voice lingered in the night. I will make you wish you were dead. I will show you what hell on earth is like. In the dim light, Crossford's threat echoed coldly. Just you wait. After a while, he left only a chilling, cackling laugh behind. It wasn't until the next day that the first light of day shone on the entire building. Inside, Aaron had a bewildered expression. Sir, did you just? Cross spoke coldly. I will not repeat myself. Immediately after, the old man declared bluntly, Milo Wilson. I want a public match with him. He was momentarily stunned but tried to remain calm, his voice full of worry. That's impossible. Aaron quickly analyzed. Milo is a talented individual who will be trained to become the next Shikigami. But you want to face him? The old man smiled with excitement, his eyes flashing with a sharp glint. Ever since I saw him fight Maxi Milan, this old body of mine has been itching for a fight. Hearing this, he still tried to persuade him. But, at the same time, the Shikigami interrupted. Isn't that a good thing, Aaron? He stared at the paper in his hand. Milo's abilities are outstanding, and he even defeated my grandson, Maxi Milan. So he can't be a coward, can he? Faced with these concise words, he quickly tried to explain. Shikigami, we're talking about a successor. The difference in power between them is too great. You call this a practice match, but it's a public execution. If Milo's martial path is cut short. But the Shikigami was unfazed, instead becoming more interested. This will break him. But that's good. The more he spoke, the more enthusiastic he became. We need warriors who don't give up even when tortured, and who resist bravely. They need to have the courage to fight back. The Shikigami's eyes showed a hint of cruelty. If his spirit is weak, then we will see Milo's true nature. On this side, Ford sneered. You're too naive, Shikigami. What reason do I have to hold back against him? Instantly, the old man devised a plan. In front of everyone, He would show them the overwhelming gap in their power. The Wilson family's name would be ruined. Then Crossford would kidnap Milo and make him experience all the pain this world has to offer. He would find a pack of orcs in heat and throw him to them. In another development, from outside the building, Jasper's voice was heard. Since that day, he continued, candidates from powerful families have been trying to approach you, Lord Milo. They have scheduled meetings with you. After a moment of silence, Jasper cautiously announced, all of them have been cancelled. After a while, Milo looked up. I see. He couldn't help but feel a little suspicious. Even your lackeys have disappeared. Jasper didn't deny it and replied immediately, exactly. We have angered the old man. Faced with his calm reaction, Milo asked, his voice low, so you're abandoning me too? In that moment, the air seemed to thicken. He bowed his head low, his voice trembling. To be honest, I want to run far away, but... Back then, he had threatened in a loud voice. If you dare to bare your fangs at me, I will not show mercy. Since that day, Jasper had silently made a resolution. I swore to follow him for the rest of my life. At this moment, he looked up at Milo, his eyes shining with determination. My king can only be you. A flicker of emotion passed through Milo's eyes. He smiled faintly. You're good. Just then, a knocking sound came from outside the door. Jasper warily turned around. Who is it? He calmly ordered. Come in. As soon as the words were out, the person outside twisted the doorknob. As the door opened, he said sarcastically, well, we have an uninvited guest. He pointed his weapon at Evans. Maxi Milan. Before Milo could speak, he turned and questioned him. What do you want with Lord Milo? He suddenly bowed his head, his lips barely moving. Milo. Suddenly, Evans bowed low to the ground. I'm sorry. He couldn't stop blaming himself. Because I was weak, so... Evans' voice was full of regret. I made things awkward for you in that match. Milo immediately cut him off. That's enough. Get up. Faced with his unusual reaction, Evans broke out in a sweat. Milo paused for a moment, then continued in a calm voice. For an arrogant person like you to bow before me, I can guess what happened. Hearing this, his eyes showed clear suspicion. Immediately after, Evans clenched his fists, his eyes showing his determination. At least let me atone. Today's match is no joke. I can talk to the old master and have it cancelled. In that moment, Milo's tone suddenly changed. No need. He turned back and smiled with a confident expression. Maxi Milan, do you think I would lose to an old man like him? Jasper let out a small laugh. Well, actually, there's no way you can win. Thinking about it, Evans admitted bitterly, that's right. It will be an overwhelming victory for Lord Walter. At this, he laughed while looking confused. But it's strange. Actually, I can't imagine Lord Milo losing. Immediately, Jasper bluntly asked Evans, don't you think so, Maxi Milan? He bowed his head, trying to avoid Milo's gaze while covering his mouth with his hand. Evans looked up, his eyes now clear. You are the one who defeated me. It wouldn't be strange if you created a few miracles. Hearing this, Milo's lips unconsciously curled up. The heel of his shoe hit the ground hard. Milo walked quickly to the door. So the public execution will take place in an hour. He quietly clenched his fists, his eyes burning with a blazing fire. It will belong to that old man. Prepare for it.